Hey, T-Sippers. Come on in. They got another shadow surprise. Democratic surprise shadow hearing on Trump's plan. They've been sneaking these little meetings in. I'm trying to get a feel of what's going on. And they just got a lot of surprises. They thought they had a deal with DHS. Then it looked like it got rejected at the House. Iranians sending little cryptic messages to Trump. Y'all come on in, hit the like button as you enter, please. Let's see what's going on. Hey, what's going on? What's going on?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our witnesses, to our members of Congress that are here, and to all of those of you in the audience and those who are watching on the live stream. Yeah. I'm Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. I'm the ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee, and I want to welcome you to this hearing entitled Kidnapped and Disappeared, Trump's Attack on Our Children.
Oh, wow.
This is our 7th hearing in a series that I have been holding to bring to light the many ways in which Donald Trump...
Kidnapping our children and disappearing them. Back that thing up, Jayapal.
I'm Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. I'm the ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee, and I want to welcome you to this hearing entitled Kidnapped
Please
and
come in hitting the like button.
On our
hey,
children.
Beverly.
This is our 7th hearing in a series that I have been holding to bring to light the many ways in which Donald Trump and his administration are destroying our immigration system and trampling on our constitutional rights, and to hold this administration to account for the cruelty and the lawlessness that we are seeing, given that our Republican colleagues refuse to do so. Today's hearing will focus on how the Trump administration's actions are hurting all of our children, with opening statements from our witnesses, questions from our members, and a timer to keep track for both witnesses and members. I now recognize myself for an opening statement. Since Donald Trump was sworn in 14 months ago, DHS has terrorized our children. Today, 4.4 million U.S. citizen children live with at least one undocumented parent. In the first 7 months of Donald Trump's term, more than 11,000 U.S. citizen children have had a parent detained. That means that every single day, an average of 50 U.S. citizen children have had a parent detained. And if that pace holds up to the current moment, that number would have roughly doubled. At the same time, under Donald Trump, every night, roughly 170 children are held in a prison in South Texas. And according to the data, which do not include the surge of arrests in Minneapolis, Minnesota, or children who are in custody of Border Patrol, as many as 400 children were incarcerated on a single day. Trump campaigned on deporting the, quote, worst of the worst, but that is absolutely not what he is doing. Instead, he's cruelly ripping apart families, detaining people of all statuses. He's restarted the cruel practice of detaining families and children, and he's forcing more and more children to appear alone in court as he cuts funding for legal representation. Let's start by talking about what it looks like for Trump's ICE to go after parents. In Washington state, my home state, ICE arrested a mother dropping her 4-year-old son off at preschool. In Oregon, masked ICE agents broke the car windows and arrested a father dropping off his young son at preschool. In Chicago, ICE dragged a daycare worker out of the facility, slammed her face against the daycare's glass doors, and arrested her. And recently in Vermont, the community surrounded a home for hours as ICE sought to enter without a warrant. Demonstrators created a human tunnel, allowing a 4-year-old child wrapped in a blanket to escape her home. Her mother was desperate to get her to safety. Having a parent kidnapped and disappeared is bad enough. But too often, ICE is using violence to arrest parents right in front of their children, or even as bait, as we saw with the horrific case of 5-year-old Liam Ramos, the young child with the bunny ears that galvanized attention across the country. One of President Trump's first acts upon returning to office was to restart family detention, where families are now being jailed together and parents are forced to make the most impossible of decisions: keep their children with them in prison or be separated.
Wow.
In the past, family detention was used to detain families who had recently crossed the border. That was cruel enough, and it inflicted lasting harms on children. But the Trump administration expanded family detention to detain families from the interior of the United States. And since then, ICE has jailed about 3,500 adults and children. That includes over 900 children who were jailed beyond the general 20-day limit that was set by a long-standing legal settlement that recognized that jails are never suitable for children.
Never.
It is not just family detention. The administration has imposed draconian new policies on people wishing to sponsor and take custody of unaccompanied children. This has led to sponsors who are largely parents
Hey,
and
Lawrence.
family members of children being scared to come
Hey,
forward.
Precious, how you
As a
doing?
result, families are separated and kids are forced to languish in the custody of the Office of Refugee Resettlement. The
Now
average-
remember, Trump's mom came over illegally. So should these same rules apply to him and his family? What's good for the goose? That's all I'm going to say right now.
length of stay in ORR custody last year was 117 days, nearly 4 months. That is 390% longer, almost 4 times the number in 2024.
His wife?
In immigration court, there are days specifically dedicated to what is called a kid's docket. I have been there to observe a kid's docket, sat through what I think is just absolutely shocking, and most Americans have no idea that this is happening. Children as young as 4 and 5 years old, by themselves, some clinging to stuffed animals,
He's even
who are
went
left
so
to
far
defend
as to
themselves in a
pardon
language that they don't know, against a government adult attorney
immigrants
with years of training. And judges give these mostly unrepresented children an 18-minute crash course in immigration law, one of the most complicated areas of law in our legal system, second only to tax law. In a completely surreal scene, they tell these young kids that they have the right to present and cross-examine witnesses, that they can object to anything presented by an adult DHS attorney if they don't
That's
want
crazy.
it presented against them. It's hard enough for adults to represent themselves in immigration court, let alone a child. Needless to say, this is not a fair system. And these children, if they can't adequately represent themselves, which the majority cannot, they get sent back to their home countries, often to violence, persecution, and trafficking from which they were trying to flee. All of this leads to lasting trauma for all children, regardless of their immigration status or whether they have an immigrant parent or a family member, even those who are non-immigrant classmates and have to watch their friends disappear or lose a parent. Today, we will hear painful things, I know, from experts across the country who interact with these families and children, who represent them, as well as someone who is forced to live with that fear and anxiety every single day. I want to thank our witnesses for being here. I want to apologize to the people across the country who are going to hear terrible things that our government is doing to our children. And I want to thank our witnesses especially for telling your stories, because by doing so, you are shedding a light on the horrible situation that so many immigrant children, U.S. citizen children, and their families find themselves in as a result of the cruel policies of this Trump administration. And together, you are helping us to ensure that we demand real accountability for these horrors and for the trauma that we're inflicting on our children. With that, it's now my pleasure to introduce today's witnesses. Neha Desai is the Managing Director of Children's Human Rights and Dignity at the National Center for Youth Law, where she leads the organization's work on behalf of immigrant children. Ms. Desai received her law degree from Berkeley School of Law and her undergraduate degree from the University of Chicago. Marion, or Mickey Donovan
Everything that
Kalust,
they
is the
doing
Director of Legal
is a
Services
test
at Immigrant
run
Defenders Law Center,
before they put it
Children's Representation
implemented on
Project.
other
It's also
races,
called
other
INDICTED. She
circumstances.
has nearly 15 years of experience advocating for immigrant children and youth. She graduated from the UCLA School of Law with a specialization in public interest law and policy and earned her BA summa cum laude from Goucher College. Dr. Tanya Caballero is an assistant professor of pediatrics at Johns Hopkins Medicine and holds a master's degree in health sciences from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. She has been a board-certified pediatrician for 12 years. She served as an executive committee member of the American Academy of Pediatrics Council on Immigrant Child and Family Health for 6 years, supporting clinical reports, policies, and strategies in the
I don't
care
want
of
us
children
getting
in
comfortable
immigrant and
in thinking
refugee
that this don't
families.
have nothing to do with us.
Nicole Izern has been an educator for 11 years, teaching
Again,
first grade
everything
and
that they're
third
doing
grade
is a
for
test
9
run.
years. She's currently a community school liaison, working directly with families, providing wraparound services to meet their needs. Ms. Izern received her bachelor's degree in education at Penn State University and her master's degree in special education at Towson University. And for our last witness, I want to yield to Representative Bonamici from Oregon to introduce her constituent, Manny.
Thank you very much, Ranking Member Jai Paul. It is my pleasure to introduce Manny as a witness for today's hearing. Manny is a courageous 17-year-old high school student from the district I represent in Northwest Oregon. Manny's been outspoken in the community about the fears he lives with every day because of the Trump administration's reckless and harmful immigration policies. In his free time, he likes to play soccer, tennis, and FIFA. So thank you, Manny, for being here and sharing your story. We're glad you're here today.
Thank you so much, Representative Bonamici. We welcome all of our distinguished witnesses here today, and we thank you for participating. We ask that you summarize your testimony in 4 minutes, and to help you stay within that time, there is a timer. Can you see the timer? Oh, okay, right here, timer, to help you keep track of time. Ms. Desai, we'll start with you.
I like Miss J. Paul.
Thank you so much, Representative J. Paul, for holding this important hearing today, and thank you for all the members of Congress present today. Over the past 20 years, I have watched children in federal immigration custody go from being a largely invisible population with few legal protections to being a highly visible, highly politicized population of children whose rights are being systematically dismantled. This is part of a calculated strategy largely outlined in Project 2025 to reverse decades of hard-fought protections for the most vulnerable children in this country. Today, I will tell you about 2 groups of children in federal immigration custody. Children that arrived without parents or legal guardians, known as unaccompanied children, and children that arrived with parents or legal guardians, known as accompanied children. For unaccompanied children, a bipartisan Congress designed protections with a simple principle in mind. Children should be released to their families swiftly and safely. This administration has made a mockery of that principle. Months ago, it instituted Operation Guardian Trace to target and deport the very families waiting to take these children home.
Thank you, K-Cells, for the
As of November
sunshine.
2025, nearly 3,000 parents and
Blame it on the
caregivers
sunshine.
have been arrested as part of this operation. When
Blame it
families
on the boogie. Thank
move
you.
forward to sponsor children out of custody, they face
And the floating
nonsensical, escalating hurdles that have nothing to do with children's safety. As a result, the average
They want these kids, these undocumented kids, to continue their sacrificing of minors, raping, end times murder. Yeah. We had no idea how intense and how widespread it was But those 600 undocumented kids were going to go over to their auctions, as they put it, to be used and abused by these elite men. Know that. That's why they're not going back to their homeland. Yeah.
Time in custody for unaccompanied children has
Thank you for the high
skyrocketed from around
five.
37 days to nearly 200 days. The impact on children trapped in
I appreciate
detention
you.
is undeniable. A mother who is desperately trying to get her daughter out of detention told us, "Every time I talk to my daughter, she cries. She tells me she wants to die." Recently, a 3-year-old girl was detained alone for over 5 months, even though her father stepped forward a day after she was placed in custody to sponsor her. While she was in custody, she experienced severe abuse. Now let's talk about Now
Oh,
let's talk
and a
about
membership.
unaccompanied children
Whoa, thank you,
detained with their
K-Sales.
parents. Since March of
Thank you so very much. I
2025,
greatly appreciate you.
hundreds of families have been detained in a prison-like facility in Dilley, Texas. The government has taken the position that they can detain these children indefinitely. In December and January alone, nearly 600 children were detained for over 20 days. As we speak, there are 5-year-old precious twins that have been there for almost 300 days.
Wow.
The conditions recounted to us by families are abhorrent and unacceptable for anyone, let alone children. Lights on all night, every night. A mom goes to turn off the lights so her baby can sleep, and the guards come right back in and turn them on. The food is frequently inedible. Families have found worms and mold in their food. Children have vomited from the food. Many children have become listless from malnutrition. And when children get sick in these conditions, care is often delayed or denied entirely. A 9-year-old was denied his asthma inhaler until after he suffered 2 severe asthma attacks, and a 2-year-old endured high fever and diarrhea for 11 days before being transferred to a hospital for appropriate medical care. The psychological toll is devastating. Children hit themselves in the face
Oh,
or
wow.
repeatedly throw themselves on the floor in desperation. Children who had been fully potty trained begin wetting themselves again.
Fear.
When a distraught 7-year-old was crying incessantly, he was given psychotropic medications which only worsened his symptoms. Teenagers describe intense depression, nightmares, panic attacks. At least 2 youth have tried to kill themselves. Beyond the deprivation, there is cruel control. Staff have searched rooms, confiscated children's drawings. When a detained mother who is a pastor tried to bring families together in prayer, the guards came and yelled at them and forbid them from praying. Staff routinely threatened to separate children from their parents to coerce compliance. Children report being mocked, yelled at, and treated as animals. Let's be clear. There is no humane way to detain families, and absolutely no legitimate reason to ever do so. Children are suffering tremendously in federal immigration custody right now. Thank you for caring about these children, and thank you for shining a spotlight on what this country is doing to them every day.
Thank you so much. And I want to point out that we have posters here that are letters that have been written from children in detention. Ms. Donovan Kalust, recognized.
Thank you, Ranking Member Jayapal and members of Congress for being here and for convening this panel. How's that? Is this okay? While it's not making the same headlines, families today are being torn apart just as they were under zero tolerance. Then, Stephen Miller orchestrated a plot to deter asylum seekers by literally snatching babies.
Yeah, hold on, y'all. Let me let y'all listen to this.
Came back at 16 years old. I ran.
Allie.
I disappeared from Child Protective Services custody for a year. I was on my own at 16 years old. I ran. I disappeared from Child Protective Services custody for a year. I was on my own, and I did things to keep myself alive until I couldn't. Came back to foster care at about 17 and a half, and begged them to please place me with my mom. They tried to put fake court orders on my mom. They tried to make up stories about her the same way you see people doing it now. Everybody wanted to project the things that they did onto my mom, to push her back. At the same time, I did things to keep myself alive until I couldn't. Came back to foster care at about 17 and a half, and begged them to please place me with my mom. They tried to put fake court orders on my mom. They tried to make up stories about her the same way you see people doing it now. Everybody wanted to project the things that they did onto my mom, to push her back. At the same time, I had social workers telling me she didn't love me, she didn't want me, she didn't care about me. And on the same side, she's fighting for me and calling nonstop and asking for help. And
She was trafficked to the elite.
from that point,
And she's in the Epstein files.
I was like, this is not going to work. So being a victim of sex trafficking over and over again, sex trafficking is not a political issue. It's not a race issue. It's not a gender issue. This is a humanity issue. This is going on everywhere. It's been going on for decades. Nobody wants to talk about sex trafficking, sex slavery.
Is that why he denied the UN?
To drug trafficking.
Said no to the vote?
Goes hand in hand. Organ harvesting, labor trafficking. Over and over again, sex trafficking
Hey, Max Boogie.
Not a political issue. It's not a race issue.
He had a
It's
crash
not a
in
gender
Florida.
issue. This is a humanity issue. This is going on everywhere. It's been going on for decades.
Thank you for the
Nobody wants to
sparkle.
talk about sex trafficking, sex slavery. It's so connected to drug trafficking. Goes hand in hand. Organ harvesting, labor trafficking. When I left, I was auctioned to Russia.
And he's dating a
He
Trump,
pulled out
ain't he?
money counters for me, and that's when I knew I wasn't coming back.
She knew she wasn't coming
I was
back.
supposed to go to a park. Nobody wants to talk about sex trafficking, sex slavery. It's so connected to drug trafficking. Goes hand in hand. Organ harvesting, labor trafficking. When I left, I was auctioned to Russia. He pulled out money counters for me, and that's when I knew I wasn't coming back. I was supposed to go to a park and wait for an order. I had went with this man for a weekend,
order,
and then he brought me for a week. Leaving with him, it was culture shock. The smells were different. Everything was different. So when I came back, that's when I was like, I got to get out of here. But it was money counters that came out at 6.
We in the United States are 3 weeks in. It's not a.
She reminds me of that little girl that was with Trump, standing in front of him when she was little, with the little ball in
I
her
did
head.
things to keep myself alive until I couldn't. Came back to foster care at about 17 and a half,
children to
and begged them to please place me with my mom. They tried to put fake court orders on my mom. They tried to make up stories about her the same way you see people doing it now. Everybody wanted to project the things that they did onto my mom, to push her back. At the same time, I had social workers telling me she didn't love me, she didn't want me, she didn't care about me. And on the same side, she's fighting for me and calling nonstop and asking for help. And from that point, I was like, this is not going to work. So Being a victim of sex trafficking over and over again, sex trafficking is not a political issue. It's not a race issue. It's not a gender issue. This is a humanity issue. This is going on everywhere. It's been going on for decades. Nobody wants to talk about sex trafficking, sex slavery. It's so connected to drug trafficking, goes hand in hand, organ harvesting, labor trafficking. When I left, I was auctioned to Russia. He pulled out money counters for me, and that's when I knew I wasn't coming back.
Money counters.
I was supposed to go to a park and wait for an order. I had went with this man for a weekend, and then he brought me for a week. Leaving with him, it was culture shock. Smells were different. Everything was different. So when I came back, that's when I was like, I got to get out of here. But it was money counters that came out as
It's not.
at 16.
So hold on, it looked like there's a live Tiger Woods. Thank you, Max. Let me get to it.
Roll over the answers. He didn't roll completely over. The truck rolled to the driver's door and then just slid northbound up the road. And again, we'll provide you some photos.
Golfer involved in a rollover crash.
So the question is, can I give you a general idea of how fast the answer?
Hold on.
Back to the trailer, you can see where he rolled, and then as he decelerates,
Let me get
sliding down
to
on the driver's door of the vehicle, you can see
another channel that's talking louder. Hold on.
before he came to a stop. Yes, sir. The vehicle, you can see that he slid for a pretty decent a space before he came to a stop. Yes, sir. Was he cooperative as far as what the schedule was today? So the question was he cooperative with us? The answer was he is cooperative, but he was not trying to incriminate himself. So he was careful in what he said and didn't say. And when it came time again for the test, the urine test.
Oh, he was drunk. Let me get off of it. I'm on it. Hold on. I don't know what's going on with the volume.
At least 8 hours from 3 o'clock for at least 8 hours, and then he'll be released on bond if he posts bond.
Injuries to the driver who was pulling.
And Mr. Woods did exemplify injuries to the driver pulling the pressure washer. The answer is no injuries to him. He was fine. Thank you.
Can y'all hear?
Question is breathalyzer was 0 and it's a urine test. The answer is yes. So on scene, we had DRE experts evaluating him, and they believed from on scene that he was not impaired on alcohol. They believed it was some type of medication or drug. And again, at the jail, he cooperated with the urine, or I'm sorry, he cooperated with the breathalyzer, and then the urine he wanted no part of.
Is there going to be any testing afterwards? What's the procedure with that to verify if he was under something?
So the question will there be any follow-up testing? The answer is no. He has a right to refuse that test. There is a Florida statute which he will be charged with for refusing to take that
Yep,
test.
I turned it up on
He
my
will
end.
never get definitive results as to what he was impaired on at the time of the crash.
8 hours from 3 o'clock for at least 8 hours.
The question is it a felony? The answer is no.
This device over here.
So the question is injuries to the driver pulling the pressure washer. The answer is no injuries to him. He was fine. Thank you. Question is breathalyzer was 0 and it's a urine test. The answer is yes. So on scene, we had DRE experts evaluating him, and they believed from on scene that he was not impaired on alcohol, but they believed it was some type of medication or drug. And again, at the jail, He cooperated with the urine, or I'm sorry, he cooperated with the breathalyzer, and then the urine he wanted no part of.
Is there going to be any testing afterwards? What's the procedure with that to verify if he was under something?
So the question, will there be any follow-up testing? The answer is no. He has a right to refuse that test. There is a Florida statute which he will be charged with for refusing to take that test, but we will never get definitive results as to what he was impaired on at the time of the crash. The question is it a felony? The answer is no. Both charges are misdemeanor charges. The question is he getting preferential
Hey,
treatment
Big
in the
Pink,
jail because
thank
of
you
who
for
he
the
is?
clock it.
Let me go back to the simplicity of this. We're the sheriff's office. We know we arrested a high-profile figure. I'm not trying to dramatize, but it doesn't matter who you are. If you break the law, we're going to follow the law. That's a really easy path to take. Now, as far as being in the jail, we're going to make sure he's safe. We're not going to put him in general population. He's not going to be with other inmates that could hurt him or try to capitalize on what he did. He'll pay the price, but he's not going to pay the price by getting punished in jail. The question is, was there any drugs or medication in the car? The answer is no, there was not. The question is, was he injured? And the answer is no, he was not injured. Again, he was lethargic on scene, but that we believe was because of what he was intoxicated on. The question is, anyone else in the car? The answer is no, he was alone in the car. The question is, was he wearing a seatbelt? And the answer is, I don't know. I'm not sure. We know he crawled out of the passenger door prior to law enforcement arriving. We can determine that based on looking at the car. I just don't know the answer.
I'm trying to cut it up some more. I think they are.
The question is, anyone else injured because of the roll of a crash? And the answer is thankfully no. This is a small 2-lane road. Again, I'm going to show you the photos. Had there been somebody moving in the opposite direction, we would not be having a conversation saying there was no injuries. This could have been a lot worse. Is that all? Thank you all. Thank you.
That was the Martin County Sheriff in Florida providing an update on the situation there. Tiger Woods involved in a crash earlier today around, I believe, 12 o'clock Iowa time. The sheriff says that a Range Rover driven by Tiger Woods was traveling at a high rate of speed when it hit the back of a truck and tipped over and slid on its side, on the driver's side of that Range Rover. Tiger reportedly was able to get out of the vehicle and was not hurt. Nobody else was hurt. However, the sheriff there, as you heard him say, said that authorities on the scene say it appeared that Mr. Woods was impaired, as he put it, and lethargic. No drugs or alcohol were found in the vehicle. They took Tiger into custody. He agreed to a breathalyzer and blew a 000, so no alcohol detected in his system. But when they asked,
Didn't this happen to Tiger before?
drugs, he refused.
He hit a tree or something. Watch out for that tree.
Florida law, he was charged with suspicion of DUI. As the sheriff just said, they cannot get a new drug test, and so this case will go forward without any confirmation whether or not he was in fact impaired. But the investigators on the scene believed that he was, based on the fact that he was acting, as they said, lethargic, even though no drugs or alcohol were found in the vehicle. Now, this isn't the first time Tiger Woods has been involved in a speeding crash like this. In fact, the last one occurred back in 2021. He was also involved in a high-speed crash with suspicion of possible impairment. That was just involved his vehicle at the time. He was severely injured in that crash. In fact, he nearly lost his leg. Emergency surgery was conducted to save his leg. The suspicion of potential prescription drug use is clearly there. Tiger has had a massive number of surgeries.
I think they just said Range Rover.
Back surgeries, and just recently has been recovering from both Achilles and back surgery. Tiger, now 50 years old, has been attempting to come back to the Pro Tour and was hoping to possibly come back for the Masters tournament next month. His status for that, of course, still remains unclear. Most recently, he took part in a indoor golf tournament involving several pro players and lost in the championship round. His team from Jupiter, Florida, lost in that round to an LA team. But again, Tiger Woods is now in custody and will remain in custody for several hours before he's released. on suspicion of driving under the influence. He tested negative for alcohol, but refused to take a test to detect any drugs in his system. Law enforcement says no drugs, no alcohol was found in the vehicle at the time of the crash. Of course, this is just developing right now. No statement yet from Woods or his representatives, and no indication on what this will mean for his to try and return to the PGA and possibly next month after the golf tournament.
Boy, that just fell on me.
That is the latest we have on that. We will continue to follow this story.
Hold
We
on.
also wanted to pass along to you that we have another developing story right now. The Dow has reached correction territory at the
I used to think getting in shape this summer meant shrinking myself. Smaller waist, smaller jeans, smaller version of me. That's what I...
Started, and initially right off the top, it did appear that the driver of the Land Rover might be impaired. And at that point, the Chief Ewing of Jude Brown Police Department called me from the Martin County Sheriff's Office and asked for our assistance. It wasn't that the Jude Brown Police Department isn't fully capable of doing these types of investigations, but quite frankly, the Sheriff's Office has a lot more repetitions in these traffic crashes and these types of investigations. Our investigation revealed as follows. Shortly again before 2, the pressure cleaner truck pulling a trailer, a small trailer, was northbound on South Beach Road and was pulling kind of to turn into a driveway. It was slowing down, starting to turn into a driveway, and the driver of that vehicle looked in his mirror and saw a Land Rover, a dark-colored Land Rover, overtaking him at high speeds, and I don't know those speeds. The Land Rover kept overtaking him. He saw it coming, so he tried to edge off to the side of the road, but this is a small 2-lane road, and there was no shoulder for this pressure cleaner gentleman to get off to the side of the road. As he was trying to move to the side of the road, the Land Rover overtook him at the last minute, swerved to avoid a collision, but clipped the back end of the trailer of the pressure cleaner apparatus, listed to the side, and then rolled on the driver's door north past the truck that had just avoided the crash with. The individual driving that Land Rover was able to crawl out the passenger door of the car and was identified to be Mr. Tiger Woods. Our DUI investigators came to the scene here, and Mr. Woods did exemplify signs of impairment. They did several tests on him. Of course, he did explain the injuries and the surgeries that he had. We did take that into account. But they did do some in-depth roadside tests, and when it was determined, he was placed under arrest and taken to the Martin County Jail. At the Martin County Jail, and even on scene, we really weren't suspicious of alcohol being involved in this case, and that proved to be true at the jail. So Mr. Woods did a breathalyzer test, blew 000s, but when it came time for us to ask for a urinalysis test, he refused, and so he's been charged with DUI, with property damage, and refusal to submit to a lawful test. In the crash, no one was injured. Mr. Woods did not seem to be injured at all. The other gentlemen were not injured, but this happened a few hours ago, so I'm giving you the information that I have right here, right now. So with that, let me kick it to you for questions. I'll answer what I can answer.
Hey, I'm trying to get to something else. Hold on.
So the question is, were they both going the same direction? Yes. Both of them were in the 280 block of South Beach Road, driving northbound. The truck pulling a trailer was trying to slow down.
Guys, check out the car refrigerator cooler from
Beaver. At a
Beaver.
high rate of speed before he flipped the back end and rolled his vehicle over on the driver's door.
How many times did he roll over?
So the question is, how many times did he roll over? The answer is he didn't roll completely over. The truck rolled to the driver's door and then just slid northbound up the road. And again, we'll provide you some photos of that.
I know you said you don't know the exact speed. You said high rate of speed twice now. Is there a way that you can have a general idea of how fast? You mentioned before, you can't drive.
So the question is, can I give you a general idea of how fast? And the answer is I can't. But I can tell you this, it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. And when I show you the photos, they kind of speak for themselves. You can see where he clipped the back of the trailer. You can see where he rolled. And then as he decelerates, sliding down on the driver's door of the vehicle, you can see that he slid for a pretty decent space before he came to a stop. Yes, sir.
Was he cooperative as far as what his schedule was today? What was he doing? Was he talking to speak to you guys what his activities were today?
So the question was he cooperative with us? The answer was he is cooperative, but he was not trying to incriminate himself. So he was careful in what he said and didn't say. And when it came time again for the test, the urine test at the jail, he stopped that. Let me go back to one thing. There is a Florida state statute that requires us to keep people incarcerated for at least 8 hours post a DUI arrest. So he's in our jail. He will be there for at least 8 hours from 3 o'clock for at least 8 hours, and then he'll be released on bond if he posts bond.
Injuries to the driver who was pulling that pressure washer.
So the question is injuries to the driver pulling the pressure washer. The answer is no injuries to him. He was fine, thankfully.
You said that breathalyzer came out with 0, so it was the urine test.
The question is breathalyzer was 0, it's a urine test. The answer is yes. So on scene, we had DRE experts evaluating him, and they believed from on scene that he was not impaired on alcohol, but they believed it was some type of medication or drug. And again, at the jail, he cooperated with the urine, he cooperated with the breathalyzer, and then the urine he wanted no part of.
You don't want to give up that
What's
pee-pee.
the procedure with that to verify if he was under something?
So the question will there be any follow-up testing? The answer is no. He has a right to refuse that test. There is a Florida statute.
Okay, I'm gonna move on.
Refusing to take that test, but
Did Pete?
As to what he was impaired.
Did he get caught trying to kill off black folk?
The question is it a felony? The answer is no. Both charges are misdemeanor charges.
Did he just get caught trying to kill off black folk? Giving an order to kill off black folks? Y'all, I be trying to tell y'all on the cool. Y'all just don't want to believe old Auntie B. Hold on. Let's go.
Trump, DEI, black voter blocks. Trump, DEI, black voter blocks, and good old Pete Hegseth over there at the Department of War. Oh, welcome back in, Occupy Democrats. And in this breaking story, yeah, that's a collection of salad. You have got to see what just happened because, oh my, just a little over a year into Trump's second term, the walls are starting to leak with truths that are just oozing out, and the stench is hard to get away from. And as we get to the breaking story, Jimmy Kimmel will happily help us along right here.
Specifically, Donald Trump was asked to show up at a gala for the Black Conservative Federation, where he was given the Champion of Black America Award. Previous recipients of the Champion of Black America Award include no one. They made it up specifically for him. Because when you think about the true champions of Black America, you think,
these lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. I can only see the black ones. That's how far I've come.
Yet, of course, Trump claims
Did he just say that?
People. Eyes that I can't see too many people out there. I can only see the black ones.
Because when you think about the true champions of Black America, you think,
these lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. I can only see the black ones. That's how far I've come.
Yet, of course, Trump claims this.
I love black people, and I did great with the vote with the black people.
And the classic reaction by Trump when his racist, bigoted history is put straight in his face from a black audience.
A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote,
He's saying in his
stupid and
step, I can't
racist.
believe she's saying
You've
that
had
in front
dinner
of
with
all
a
these
white
black people.
supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
First of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question.
But he still lives in the Gandhi snow globe in his mind.
I did more for the black community than anybody with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln.
And then Stephen A. Smith does some basic cabinet position accounting in his second term for all of us.
In the world of President-elect Donald Trump, where ABC News is reporting black conservatives are feeling left out based on appointments and nominations for his upcoming term. At the time of this taping, 53 Trump nominees have been reported. One is black. That's it.
I think it's disgraceful.
And a total of 5 are people of color.
Yes, you're right, Donald. It is disgusting. But in this breaking story, people are finally starting to let some of the truth ooze out. And what got just said about how you feel about being actually near black people regarding the military. Pete Hegseth, Department of War, no
They
more
wouldn't even shake
DEI.
one of them hand.
Maybe you went a little extreme on that. Check this breaking story out. Hegseth official told military officer President doesn't want to stand next to a black female officer in promotions rift. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth struck the names of 2 black and 2 female officers from a military promotions list, sparking bias concerns, according to a new report on Friday. The New York Times published a lengthy report citing 11 current and former military administration officials that suggested Hegseth's chief of staff told a military leader that President Donald Trump doesn't want to stand next to a black female officer at military events. The promotions list in question is for officers who could be jumping to a 1-star general position. About 36 names are reportedly on the list, but Hegseth pushed to remove 4, 2 of whom are black officers. The other 2 are women. Hegseth reportedly struck 2 of the 4 names from the list over past statements and performance. 1, a black armor officer wrote a paper more than a decade prior on why black service members historically have taken support roles in the military over frontline positions. Another, a female logistics officer, is believed to have been targeted over her involvement in the 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan, which led to the deaths of 13 U.S. service members. Hegseth called the operation a disaster. Some inside the military have reportedly been questioning whether Hegseth even has the legal authority to strike names from promotion lists. Army Secretary Daniel P. Driscoll had refused Hegseth's requests, according to the report, and had a meeting with Hegseth's chief of staff, during which a shocking statement was allegedly made. Ricky Buria, Hegseth's chief of staff, and Driscoll reportedly had a heated exchange last summer when Buria pushed Driscoll on a decision to promote Major General Antoinette R. Gant to take charge of the military district of Washington. Mr. Buria told Mr. Driscoll that President Trump would not want to stand next to a black female officer at military events, the officials said, according to the Times report. Gant, however, was ultimately put in the position and recently promoted to a 2-star. The president is not a racist or sexist, Driscoll reportedly told Buria. Buria denied the heated interaction, calling it completely false. Whoever placed this made-up story is clearly trying to sow division among our ranks in the department and the administration, he said. It's not going to work, and it will never work when this department is led by clear-eyed, mission-driven leaders unfazed by fake Washington gossip. Now, as we know in a court of law, hearsay is something that is objectionable. Absolutely. We've seen it our whole lives. Law and order, objection, hearsay, sure. He said, she said, sure. But the reality is, when your behavior, when the decisions and choices you make are really consistent and patterned, like Donald Trump's are, like Pete Hegseth, like this entire administration has always been, it's not real hard to grasp how likely something like that breaking story about what got said about Trump being near a black female officer in terms of a promotion, that's honestly not that much of a leap to get to and understand, yeah, that's probably or likely close to the exact truth. You guys like and share the video and stay frosty.
When the power does
Stay
go out
frosty.
here, we lose more than just the lights. It's also our water, our heat, and
Wow.
the fridge too, and we just can't go without those things for very long.
Wow.
It gives us
MAGA Mike Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House, is panicking after MAGA Republicans in the Senate passed by a unanimous consent motion a bill that would just fund TSA agents and not fund ICE and Border Patrol, which is exactly what Democrats had been proposing for some time. And that followed Donald Trump making a social media post saying that via executive order, he would be funding the TSA using funds that were already appropriated to the Department of Homeland Security, thus
Can't believe
showing
nothing he
that
say.
Donald Trump could have been funding the TSA
Hold on, let
for
me see.
many, many weeks now, as we've been saying at the Midas Touch Network. So the sequence of events is that Donald Trump says that he's gonna fund the TSA via an executive order, which he could have done for a long time. Then around 2 a.m. in the United States Senate, Senator John Kennedy, MAGA Republican from Louisiana, basically adopted the Democratic plan to just fund TSA. Then the MAGA Republicans were going to defer ICE and Border Patrol funding perhaps at a later time during reconciliation proceedings in a few weeks or a few months. Then the Senate left. They left Washington, D.C. I mean, they got in planes and they went home to their districts and said, see you later. So that means the House of Representatives would basically have to pass an identical bill to what the Senate passed, just funding the TSA. And by the way, Donald Trump said he was doing that via executive order. And if there were any changes made to what the Senate passed in the House, the Senate would have to come back. But you see, the problem is the Senate left. And they ain't coming back for the next 2 weeks. That's what I talked about in the video I made earlier today. The next time the Senate's going to come back, it's like the second week of April. So we still have this partial government shutdown of DHS. And while TSA is going to now be funded via this executive order, that money is getting pulled from other areas in order to fund TSA. And the MAGA Republicans want to make sure that ICE and Border Patrol get additional funding because they're already well funded. Let's be very clear. They've gotten hundreds of billions of dollars. I want to see ICE and Border Patrol abolished. They don't need any money at all, in my view. But Republicans want to give them more money. Democrats have set the conditions: no masks, must use search warrants, must identify yourself, can't be at polling stations. But the MAGA Republicans don't want any of those conditions. And the MAGA Republicans want to make sure that they have more money to torture and maim and kill and terrorize people here in the United States and expand the concentration camp system that is being built here in the United States. And so ultimately, when this was passed from the Senate to the House said, we are not just going to fund the TSA. We want to make sure the Department of Homeland Security, ICE, and Border Patrol get extra funding so they can do the torture. That's what we want. So we're not going to support you, MAGA Republicans in the Senate. So come back, senators, because we in the House, we're going to do what's called a continuing resolution regarding the previous
they want to be able to torture
in order to make sure all of DHS is funded. Now, the Democrats have objected to that in the Senate and have threatened the filibuster, and Republicans don't have enough votes to obtain cloture. And so Republicans made a deal with the Democrats not to fund ICE and Border Patrol, but the MAGA Republicans in the House were like, screw that. We can't support that. So we're not just going to fund TSA alone. We want to make sure that ICE can wear masks and have no search warrants and terrorize and torture people. And so the MAGA Republicans in the House have been panicking, MAGA Mike, and they're like, we're going to do a continuing resolution that funds everything. Come back, senators. We're going to force a vote on this. And the senators are like, giving MAGA Mike the middle finger. The MAGA Republican Senate, good luck. See you later. I mean, you got Ted Cruz on a plane. They're all on airplanes. They've all left, by the way. I mean, I'll show you right here. This is a video of MAGA Republican Senator John Thune, the majority leader in the Senate. And Fox interviewed him, state regime media, as he was leaving. He's like, see you later. I'm out. Good luck, MAGA Mike. I want you to watch this here. Play this clip.
Wow.
How you feeling? Resolved?
What's that?
Are you thinking everything's resolved, working out well? The House going to do their job?
Well, we'll see. We made some temporary headway, but we got a lot of work to do still.
So after the House of Representatives got word that the Senate passed via a unanimous consent motion the funding just for the TSA, you had MAGA Republicans just flipping out. Like MAGA Republican Mark Harris posted the following: I am done with Senate Republicans. Their failure to fully fund DHS is not just disappointing, it's a disgrace. They refuse to fund ICE units that target sex traffickers. They refuse to fund Border Patrol agents.
Well, the sex traffickers in the White
House. They have
House.
failed the American people. They have made one thing clear: America's safety is not their priority. MAGA Republican Congressmember Chip Roy writes, Why would Senate
Supreme
GOP throw
Court.
Democrats a political lifeline now to fund
They the
TSA
biggest SA traffickers.
that doesn't fund ICE and Border Patrol, and in the process likely get off of Save America Act to go home for Easter recess? As our editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski writes, more proof that Republicans wanted to withhold TSA funding to cause airport chaos for negotiating leverage. Everything they said about airports being a mess over the past 2 weeks is exactly what they wanted. Let's just think logically together. If Donald Trump just signed an executive order funding TSA, which he did late last night and he signed it today, he could have done that weeks ago, right? This whole mess was manufactured by Republicans. And if the Senate Republicans were willing to just fund TSA alone, which they were able to do, why couldn't they do that weeks ago? Democrats kept on introducing that, right? I'm just speaking logically. I'm not speaking as a partisan, right? And now the MAGA Republicans in the House can fund TSA. And they're saying, nope, we need to give extra money to ICE and Border Patrol. Why? Just fund TSA now. And then you can have the debate and the discussion on ICE and Border Patrol. But get TSA funded in a meaningful and material way. That's all. And meanwhile, Democrats in the Senate said, look, under no circumstance will we support any 60-day continuing resolution that the House passes. That's dead on arrival in the Senate. So if you go and pass this in the House, even though all the senators gone, when you send this back to us in the Senate, we ain't passing that at all. So good luck. See you later. So with all of that as background, MAGA Mike just held a press conference. And during the press conference, MAGA Mike acted like Democrats were in the majority of the Senate and the House, when Republicans control the majority in the Senate and Republicans control the majority in the House. And what's happening now, Republican House members and MAGA Mike are panicking and attacking Republican Senate members. But somehow MAGA Mike turns this into an attack on Democrats. The MAGA Republicans in the Senate were the ones who did the unanimous consent motion that allowed TSA to get funded. You're attacking them. The Democrats supported it. Sure, Democrats want TSA to be funded. But wake up, MAGA Mike. So here was MAGA Mike. He's like, this was unconscionable that the Democrats would wait until 3 a.m. to do this gambit. John Kennedy, you don't get much more MAGA Republican than that from Louisiana. Watch MAGA Mike here. Play this clip.
We're not doing that. And it is unconscionable to me that the Democrats would force some sort of negotiation at 3 o'clock in the morning and try to hoist this upon the American people and then get on their jets and go home for their holiday and pretend and think that we're going to go along with that. So we're going to do something different. We're going to do the responsible thing. Republicans are going to continue to govern and do the right thing morally, legally, and politically. We're going to take care of those who take care of us. The employees and the Department of Homeland Security have gone without funding and without paychecks for 42 days.
Thank you, Ms. Tom.
It's the second longest shutdown in U.S. history.
More over here from MAGA Mike. And as Alex Cole says, according to MAGA Mike Johnson, you would think Democrats controlled both houses in Congress. Republicans can't govern for SHI, and he uses the curse word. Watch what MAGA Mike says over here when a reporter says, you and John Thune are not on the same page, it seems. Here, play this clip.
Democrats will continue to play politics.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You and John Thune are not on the same page. You came out and criticized Democrats. He was the engineer behind this. Why are you guys not on the same page? And are you not extending the shutdown? If you were to accept what the Senate had passed, this could end tonight and the TSA lines would shrink.
I wouldn't call John Thune the engineer of this. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate have forced this upon the Senate. I have to protect the House. Let me answer the question, Chad. I have to protect the House. And I have to protect the American people. That's our responsibility. Our colleagues on this side understand this is not a game. We are not playing their games. These people want open borders and they want criminal, illegal aliens in the country. They do not want to enforce the law. They want to literally defund. You just read it in the bill here. They want to give $0 to enforcing federal immigration laws and keeping the border secure. That was the biggest issue in the election of 2024, the wide open border that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris hoisted upon the country. And 20 million. By some estimates, 20 million dangerous, criminal, illegal aliens included in that number came over the border. We have terrorists in our country. We have, obviously, murderers. They're putting it on display. And then these big blue cities that have sanctuary city policies, they're releasing these people onto the streets. They released them over the border when they came over under the Biden years. And that is the turmoil that we're facing right now, the very serious threats to the homeland and everybody. It's not just long lines at the airport. It is the danger and safety of everyone. We'll talk more after this is passed. We'll get it done.
Okay, why are you attacking the Democrats? Everything's Democrat, 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 Democrat. Just fund the TSA. Let people have normal experiences in the airport.
Right.
Stop breaking every damn thing, you idiots. For real. Just let people live their lives and be normal. Stop behaving like this, you little weasel. More from MAGA Mike right here. He's like, the Republicans are not going to be a party to this. You're quite literally the party to this. You're the majority, you weasel. Here, play this clip.
And this has to stop. The Republicans are not going to be a party to this. They have taken hostage the funding processes of government so that they can impose their radical agenda on the American people, and we can't have any part of it. This gambit that was done last night is a joke. I'm quite convinced that it can't be that every Senate Republican read the language of this bill, and I'm going to just read you one excerpt of it because it's pretty alarming, and it says everything that you need to know in Section 4. This is on page 2 of the bill. This is an actual copy of the bill. That excerpt. It says, quote, "The contents printed under the headings of this bill, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Security Operations, under the heading of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol and Protection, shall have no force or effect for purposes of this act, and amounts specified in the final bill under the subheading Border Security Operations and under the heading U.S. Customs and Border Protection and under the headings of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in the Department of Homeland Security shall be zero." We're not doing that. And it is unconscionable to me that the Democrats would force some sort of negotiation at 3 o'clock in the morning and try to hoist this upon the American people and then get on their jets and go home for their holiday.
More from MAGA Mike Johnson right here. A reporter says, so has the president endorsed your plan? And MAGA Mike Johnson's like, I spoke to him moments ago. He knows exactly what we're doing. Here, let's play this clip.
More after this is passed. We'll get it done.
Has the president endorsed this plan? Has the president endorsed this plan, Mr. Speaker? Has the president?
I spoke to the president a few moments ago. He understands exactly what we're doing and why, and he supports it. Yes.
Thank you. The American people.
Now we're hearing Donald Trump's reaction. Donald Trump is telling state regime media, which calls itself Fox, in a call that the Senate bill that passed in the overnight hours to fund all of DHS, except CBP and ICE, wasn't appropriate. Donald Trump told Fox, well, it wasn't good. It wasn't appropriate. Now what they should do is they should terminate the filibuster and just vote. But you have 3 or 4 Republicans in there that are not doing the right thing. You can't have a bill that's not going to fund, in my opinion. You can't have a bill that's not going to fund ICE. You can't have a bill that's not going to fund any form of law enforcement, of which ICE is a big form, and so is Border Patrol. Then Donald Trump ran to social media and wrote, the Republicans should terminate the filibuster and vote. Haven't they had enough of this nonsense from the radical left lunatics that are looking to destroy our country? Make America great again, Donald J. Trump. And so I don't want you to be confused here. To be clear, based on Donald Trump's executive order, the TSA agents should be funded. But he should have signed that order weeks ago. Still, Donald Trump's executive order is likely unlawful because he doesn't have the power of the purse. People probably won't challenge it because we want TSA agents to get their funds, to get paid, right? So no one's going to challenge it, even though he had the money. And what the process that should happen is the Senate and the House pass a bill. Donald Trump signs it into law. But now the Senate's passed basically what Trump signed. They said, let's fund the TSA. The House is rejecting it, right? So there's no way to have that law. The House is telling the Senate, come back. The Senate's saying, we ain't coming back. And then the Democrats in the Senate are saying, even if you send it back, we have enough votes for a filibuster. So Donald Trump's saying, let's stop the filibuster and let's talk about genital mutilation and let's bully transgender people, because that's where Donald Trump is reducing every argument to bully transgender people, right? That's the lay of the land, folks. So hopefully that explains it for you. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7.
Let's move. Come on. 359 people in the room. Can I get y'all to hit the like button as we get caught up this Friday evening on what's going on in them streets? All over.
Pro. It's built to toast, air fry, reheat, roast, bake, broil,
we get an update on Tiger Woods in his accident. Right now, he's locked up.
We have some breaking news.
Refusing
Speaker
to
of the
give
House,
up
Mike
his
Johnson,
urine.
is in total meltdown mode.
Super chats or super stickers are ways to support the platform as well. So hit the like button. Did I pin it? You can like, share, subscribe, join the membership. Super chats, super stickers are welcome. Let's go.
After multiple Republican senators dipped out of Washington after putting a bill on the floor to fund the Department of Homeland Security, or at least TSA and multiple other agencies that need immediate funding. Republicans and Democrats in the Senate unanimously voted to pass this funding bill in the middle of the night, and then it was up to the House. Well, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson just rolled over like a little good boy for Donald Trump and decided to shoot down this funding, therefore showing the American people whose fault this is. Very clearly showing the American people only a few months before the midterms that the Republican Party will play games with the funding of TSA workers and other Americans if it means that Donald Trump can have, I don't even know, what he deems leverage in his sick, twisted mind. Well, this is a full-blown collapse of coordination inside the Republican Party, driven by Donald Trump directly. Before I play you these clips of the meltdown, here's a simple version of what happened and why Republicans are dipping out of D.C. So Senate Republicans actually did their job. They came together after 45 days of this shutdown, and in a rare move, they pushed forward a funding measure to keep key parts of the government running, specifically the Department of Homeland Security. This included TSA, airport security, the stuff that keeps us safe and people moving on a daily basis. And then they said, we will talk about ICE later and put that in the reconciliation bill. This wasn't some fringe vote that barely passed. It was unanimous. Everybody agreed, but this is where everything broke. Then, when it went back to the House, because it has to pass both chambers of Congress, Mike Johnson came in and realized Donald Trump doesn't want me to do this. I'm in a very tough position right now. So Mike Johnson
was going 100 and something,
spikes down the bill, and then has to answer why he did that in front of a bunch of reporters who are asking very genuine questions. First, let's start off with Senate Leader Thune dipping out of D.C. rapidly.
How you feeling? Resolved?
What's that?
Are you thinking everything's resolved, working out well? The House going to do their job?
Well, we'll see. We made some temporary headway, but we got a lot of work to do still.
They thought they made some temporary headway. Well, the House did not do their job. They shot it down. You then see Senator Marsha Blackburn sneaking out of D.C. She's trying, look at how they're trying to block her. Very intentional. I need someone to do this for me when I'm in the airport. These are supposed to be our representatives and senators, and they're not publicly accessible. Like, I was joking around about someone doing this for me, but I love meeting people in the airport. I love talking to you all in the airport or wherever I am. It seems like our own public servants on the Republican side,
they're not doing their job.
To be held accountable.
They're not doing what they were voted to
By the way,
do.
make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the Adam Mockler feed. Look how close we are to 2 million subscribers, which is a record for
Way to
Here's
go.
where the House comes in. Let me show you Speaker of the House Mike Johnson being asked, hey, you and Thune from the Senate don't seem to be on the same page.
Democrats will continue to play politics.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You and John Thune are not on the same page. You came out and criticized Democrats. He was the engineer behind this. Why are you guys not on the same page? And are you not extending the shutdown? If you were to accept what the Senate had passed, this could end tonight and the TSA lines would shrink.
I wouldn't call John Thune the engineer of this. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate have forced this upon the Senate. I have to protect the House.
John Thune, the Republican leader in the Senate, was literally the one who proposed this, brought it to the floor, and brought it to Trump. Trump is the one who shot this down. You know it's bad when Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is pretending that Republicans are not in charge right now. He's literally pretending that Democrats have power in the Senate.
Let me answer the question, Chad. I have to protect the House, and I have to protect the American people. That's our responsibility. Our colleagues on this side understand this is not a game. We are not playing their games. These people want open borders, and they want criminal, illegal aliens in the country. They do not want to enforce the law. They want to literally defund. You just read it in the bill here. They want to give $0 to enforcing federal immigration laws and keeping the border secure. That was the biggest issue in the election of 2024. The wide open border.
Okay, wait, look at the political pivot right here. I'm a Democrat. I think a lot of you guys would consider yourselves Democrats or more liberal. Nobody right now is asking for a bunch of undocumented illegal immigrants, as he says, jumping over the border committing crimes. Nobody wants that. Nobody in America wants that. We're asking for some common sense negotiations so that ICE agents aren't killing U.S. citizens with no due process, aren't killing U.S. citizens point blank period, and actually have oversight and investigation when they're doing their job. We have multiple U.S. citizens dead, multiple undocumented immigrants dead, and no accountability for ICE. That is far different than saying, I want illegal immigrants to jump across the border. Nobody's asking for that, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. Look at how hard it is for him to spin this specific issue. As CNN points out, you know it's in a bad position. You know Mike Johnson's in a tough spot when he's pretending Democrats control the Senate. I thought this
All right, we are listening to House Speaker Mike Johnson, who is very clearly in a very tough spot here. You can tell by how he is pretending that Democrats are in control of the Senate.
This is just so incredibly funny. He repeatedly says in these clips, well, the Democrats they got to get it figured out in the Senate. Why are they pushing this through in the Senate? It's unconscionable to me that Democrats would do this. Dude, Republicans are the ones who push this forward. The Republican Party is currently running into itself friction-wise. Watch this clip.
Yeah, they said he had a DUI. He didn't appear drunk, but he refused to take a pee test. He said, you can't have my pee.
And it is
I'll blow, but I will not give you my pee. So they hit him with a DWI, but they said his numbers were 0 on the blows. So what's in the P? Tiger, what's in the P? Yep.
To me that the Democrats would force some sort of negotiation at 3 o'clock in the morning and try to voice this upon the American people, and then get on their jets and go home for their holiday.
He didn't want to give up that sample.
So we're going to do something different. We're going to do the responsible thing. Republicans are going to continue to govern and do the right thing morally, legally, and politically.
Don't be gaslit here, by the way. Do not be gaslit.
Oh,
you can look it up
not.
on any website, any news station. Republicans in the Senate finally agreed with Democrats to fund TSA, fund our airport.
DUI arrest. Driving under the influence. They don't know what's...
Arrested on suspicion of DUI. The Martin County Sheriff's Office says it happened on Jupiter Island near where Woods lives. Good evening. I'm Tiffany Kennedy.
And I'm Felicia Rodriguez. Thank you for joining us. We want to get right out to our Ari. Hi, Ari, the sheriff held a news conference just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, that news conference just wrapped up. Most importantly, Tiger Woods was not injured, according to the sheriff's office. However, he is right now in the Martin County jail. Like you mentioned, he was arrested on suspicion of DUI. They do not believe this involved alcohol, but they do believe that it involves some kind of a drug or a medication. They say he was very lethargic on scene. Let me show you now some photographs from the scene. These were just given to us by the Martin County Sheriff's Office a couple of minutes ago. Just to recap, this is around 2 o'clock this afternoon in the 200 block of Bridge Road. If you're not familiar with that road, it is a 2-lane road. Traffic does not move very quickly on that road. According to the sheriff, Tiger was driving his Land Rover. He tried to pass a pickup truck that was pulling a pressure cleaner. They say he was going at a high rate of speed. He clipped the back end of the pickup truck and he flipped his SUV.
But I can tell you this, it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. And when I show you the photos, they kind of speak for themselves. You can see where he clipped the back of the trailer. You can see where he rolled. And then as he decelerates, sliding down on the driver's door of the vehicle, you can see that he slid for a pretty decent space before he came to a stop.
The sheriff says they asked Tiger if he would do a urinalysis test to see if he had any drugs in his system. They say he refused that test. That's another charge. That is a misdemeanor charge. According to Florida law, according to the sheriff, Tiger must be in jail now for at least 8 hours, which would be until about 11 o'clock tonight. I asked the sheriff if Tiger, because of who he is getting any preferential treatment. The sheriff said he is being treated like everybody else with one exception. They're not going to put him in general population because they know that somebody inside the jail might see that as an opportunity opportunity to do something to hurt him, to make a name for themselves. So he is being kept safe, but he's also being treated like any other inmate. That's the very latest reporting live on Jupiter Island. Ari Height, WPBF 25 News.
All right, Ari, thank you. And of course, this is a developing story. We'll give you the latest updates both on air and on our free WPBF 25 mobile app.
The last thing I wanted was another monthly payment. Here's what made my
He say,
decision.
you can have,
HELOC on the left, home tap, home
you
equity
can, I can
investment,
blow
HELOC.
in this thing, but you cannot have my P.
Income and job requirements plus variable interest rates. But with a home equity investment from Home Tap, no monthly payments during the investment term, no income or job requirements.
Nope, let's get back to this. There's a lot going
to
on.
restore the funding. Donald Trump is the one that told Speaker of the House Mike Johnson to roll over so he can tickle his tummy like a good boy and say, listen, shoot this bill down. And Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is a cuck for anything Donald Trump does, so he decided to shoot it down. Now he's out here spinning, and he's really struggling to do so.
We are going to take care of those who take care of us. The employees under the Department of Homeland Security have gone without funding and without paychecks for 42 days.
And on screen right now, you see the wait time at the Houston airport is 150 minutes. Thank God I am not traveling today. To continue, Johnson says the Republicans are not going to be a party to this. Yeah, dude, we know, because you guys are the ones shooting this down.
This has to stop. The Republicans are not going to be a party to this. They've taken hostage the funding processes of government so that they can impose their radical agenda on the American people, and we can't have any part of it.
He's talking about Democrats right now, but if you didn't know any better, you'd think he's just speaking about his own party. Like, listen to the way he describes the Democrats. It's literally what Republicans are doing verbatim.
And this has to stop. The Republicans are not going to be a party to this. They have taken hostage the funding processes of government so that they can impose their radical agenda on the American people, and we can't have any part of it. This gambit that was done last night is a joke. I'm quite convinced that it can't be that every Senate Republican read the language of this bill, and I'm going to just read you one excerpt of it because it's pretty alarming, and it says everything that you need to know in Section 4. This is on page 2 of the bill. This is an actual copy of the bill. That excerpt. It says, quote, "The contents printed under the headings of this bill, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Security Operations, under the heading of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol and Protection, shall have no force or effect for purposes of this act, and amounts specified in the final bill under the subheading Border Security Operations and under the heading U.S. Customs and Border Protection and under the headings of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in the Department of Homeland Security shall be zero." We're not doing that. And it is unconscionable to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. You've already allocated so much money to ICE that most countries' militaries would dream to have that much money. And now Democrats are saying we're not going to give any more until we have oversight. And Mike Johnson says, no, we're not going to do that. He says that's the radical part. Democrats are not radical for wanting oversight before we give ICE more funding. This reporter then asks the question, hey, the American people are sick and tired of you blaming Democrats blaming Republicans. Can't we just fix this?
And why? And he supports it, yes.
Mr. Speaker,
Thank you.
the American people are just sick and tired of every one of you, both Republicans and Democrats, come to this podium and blame the other side. People have been standing in lines 3, 4, 5 hours at a time. There's TSA workers that are selling their plasma. At what point is a leader on either side going to stand up and say, we have a path forward that everyone will agree to? This vote.
By the way, the Democrats already did that. The Democrats, and to give credit to the Republicans in the Senate like Thune, they tried to come to an agreement like adults. Like, honestly, this is how democracy is supposed to work. Credit where credit is due to John Thune, who is now just dipping out of D.C. because he doesn't want to deal with it during his vacation. He said, before I go on vacation, I want to make sure we take care of the American people. So Democrats, let's come together. Let's pass this version of it, even though we're not going to be super happy with it. Democrats had to make some concessions as well, but they decided to come together and pass this version through the Senate. Both sides experienced a little bit of pain, but Democrats came out on top. Democrats won. That's why I made a video this morning saying the Democrats had won in the Senate. Little did I know Donald Trump was going to swoop in and tell the House to entirely shoot it down because they are suicidal, I guess. They are self-destructive. Here is Speaker of the House Mike Johnson just taking the cuck chair saying we're so happy to have a strong commander-in-chief. Trump is right now signing an executive order to fund TSA, but We don't even know if that's constitutional. Most people say that it's not. Congress has the power of the purse, the power to allocate funds. Trump can't just executive order everything when Congress is gridlocked. Come on. We are actually sorry, not even gridlocked. Democrats and Republicans in the Senate acted like adults. The House is gridlocked because Republicans in the House will not act like adults. It's important to be clear here. It's the House that is rolling over for Trump.
Very grateful to have a strong commander-in-chief in the White House who has taken real leadership. President Trump has already ordered by executive order that TSA agents will be paid, and that machinery is in process right now. The Office of Management and Budget is working through that to make sure that that happens, and we will reduce the lines and the waits at the airlines, and we'll make sure that those who are protecting us are paid. But what we are going to present, and what we're going to vote on this floor, our Rules Committee is working through this right now. We're going to put a clean, simple, continuing resolution that will go until May 22nd. It's just a number of weeks, to allow for all those who sacrificially serve the country and protect other Americans.
This is insane. What you're seeing right now is an insane dynamic where Senate Republicans tried to prevent weeks more of chaos, and House Republicans are operating under a completely different incentive structure. Complete loyalty to Donald Trump. So Donald Trump was able to come in and blow everything up because, as you know, House Republicans are wrapped around the finger of Donald Trump. So for weeks, Republicans have been messaging that Democrats are the ones causing this dysfunction. They've been saying that Democrats are blocking funding, that
they've been lying for months.
Dragging negotiations, we're responsible.
Y'all hit the like button.
And now Republicans own it. Trump owns this, and they have made it so incredibly clear that the 50,000 TSA workers missing paychecks are because of people like Speaker Johnson. Trump is trying to put a Band-Aid on this via executive order. It's not going to work. He's not actually trying to do this. It's kind of like when he shot down the border bill because he thought it would be better for him politically. So I'm going to leave it there. All right, we have some very concerning breaking news, and a pattern is beginning to emerge here. The Washington Post just broke a story about Donald Trump spending 5 minutes during his cabinet meeting yesterday boasting about negotiating $5 personalized markers. I have a minute or two of this interaction, but when the Washington Post reached out to the company that makes said markers, they said this conversation never happened. They said this negotiation was completely fabricated. Nobody has any knowledge of what the president is talking about. This is 4 days after Donald Trump bragged about negotiations with Iran going so well that they agreed on 5 different points, and then Iran came out and said, whoa, we haven't been negotiating. This hasn't been happening. The reality is, Trump was likely embellishing the success that we had with this deal, or lack thereof, and now he's doing the same thing here. So let's break this down. Make sure you drop a like. We're getting very, very close to 2 million subscribers. Honestly, an amazing record for Gen Z built media. I just want to say thank you to each and every single one of you. We are absolutely ripping it. Before I jump into this post, we have a new clip of Trump that just released of him getting asked a question, turning around and walking away.
Before you scroll, if everyone watching this contributes $20 to my re-election campaign before the March 31st FEC deadline, we'll have the resources needed to defend this seat from MAGA and help take back the Senate. I know I've been asking a lot, but not everyone can give, so I'm counting on supporters like you who know the stakes of the midterm elections to chip in today.
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
And then hearing it and coming back. Watch.
Because the country sent them out. When they saw open borders, every country throughout the world, they sent them into a country. And we don't want that. And that's what it's all about. Thank you. Iran, sir. Iran.
Why does he always have to lie?
On Iran, they are being decimated. They are talking. We are talking now. They want to make a deal. Very simply, our military is the greatest in the world by far. Iran is being decimated.
Why are you taking them for granted? Why are you lying?
Stronger than Iran.
They got a million
question here. But if Iran were decimated, as he says,
soldiers,
then why isn't the Strait of Hormuz open? Why can't a single ship go through the Strait of Hormuz?
You're deploying hundreds. They have a million
ships through the Strait of Hormuz. It's because Iran is not decimated. Just because we took out their Air Force from 50 years ago does not mean that they're decimated as a regime. The regime still stands. and is still using asymmetric warfare. Let's watch this clip of Donald Trump just lying, and then wait for the kicker after. I want to show you what the actual company that manufactures these Sharpies said.
See this pen right here? This pen is an interesting...
Why are you talking about a damn Sharpie?
So this pen is very inexpensive, but it writes well. I like it. But I can't have the pen the way it was. You know what it is. I don't want to give too much publicity, but they do treat me well, Sharpie. So I came here to have $1,000 pens. And you know, you hand pens out, you're signing and you're handing them out, you're handing them to all these people. Sometimes you have 30, 40 people. And they were $1,000 a piece. Beautiful pen, ballpoint. 1,000. It was gold, silver, gorgeous. But I'm handing out to kids that don't even know what they're doing. What is this, Mommy? It's kids. They're getting a pen for $1,000. They have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
And I feel guilty because I'm like, you know, I'm by nature, I don't, you know, it's the government. I love the government like I love myself economically. I want to save
You
money.
love yourself.
So I'm saying this is crazy. And it had another problem. They didn't write well.
Bro said, I love the government like I love myself.
So I take it out and I sign and there's no ink. And I got all you people looking and you say, there must be something wrong with Trump. And I'm signing and there's no ink in the pen and it costs $1,000. So this one, I called the guy. I said, I'd like to use your pen, but I can't have a gray thing with a big S on it. Saying Sharpie. As I'm signing a $1 trillion airplane contract to buy brand new fighter jets, brand new B-2 bombers, of which we just ordered plenty.
I don't
can't
even
do that
look
with
at
the
it.
press. Use your pen, but I like the pen the best. But I'll sign it. I could do like Biden did, you know, give it to somebody else to sign, or an auto pen, or maybe sign it separately in another room. But I can't use your pen. He said, well, I can make it nicer. I said, what can you do? He said, I'll paint it black. I said, that's nice. And I can even paint the White House on it, sir, if you like, in gold. Almost real gold.
All right, this negotiation is already nonsensical. I'm already worried about the President of the United States contradicting himself every 20 minutes, every 20 seconds. Listen to this.
Pete, do you want to give about a 3-minute statement on how we're doing in this, as I call it, military operation? People don't like me using the word war, but so I won't. But the Democrats call it a war.
He says the Democrats call it a war. He won't use the word war. Here's him 30 seconds later.
We've won this. This war has been won. The only one that likes to keep it going is the fake news.
Okay, so he's constantly redirecting, trying to blame the Democrats, blame the fake news. Dude, you pulled us into a war. Now you're ranting about Sharpies and lying about them. Presented with a transcript of Trump's account, a spokesperson for Sharpie maker Newell Brands said, it did not occur. Quote, we don't have any information about the conversation described, the spokesperson said. We're proud to be a beloved brand trusted by so many globally, end quote. The White House did not respond to requests to clarify Trump's account, including whom he spoke with and when, and how he did obtain black Sharpies with his signature in gold. The reason why I brought up both Iran and talked about the Sharpies, I've weaved it, so to speak, is for the simple reason that Donald Trump is very clearly out of his mind and lying about negotiations that aren't taking place. The reality with the Iran war is there's very likely intermediary negotiations where multiple countries are funneling messages through. Now, Iran has every incentive to downplay it and say that's not happening at all. There's no negotiations. And Trump has every incentive in the world to say that he's winning, to overplay how much he's winning, and that is leading to him lying, going on these random 2-minute rants, constantly freaking the hell out. I think it's very, very odd that every time he gets in front of a camera, he's straight up lying.
On Iran,
Some of them
they are
MAGA
being
people
decimated.
act like they do.
They are talking. We are talking now. They want to make a deal. Very simply, our military is the greatest in the world by far. Iran is being decimated. Thank you.
Hey, money.
This is
Money
absolutely
tree.
absurd. The entire world is becoming
Pen.
less safe, and America is becoming less safe. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson just shot down a bill to fund TSA, to fund the Department of Homeland Security, then negotiate on ICE. This is not a revenue problem. Trump is actively making America more dangerous by sending our troops to war,
Absolutely.
asking for $200 billion to continue this war,
But it ain't a
claiming
war,
the
he
war is
said.
over, and then shooting down a bill to fund
Why do you need
our
$200
airports,
billion
our
if
TSA
it's not a
members. By the
war?
way, thank you to every single TSA member who has been working, TSA worker who has been putting in the daily hours, making sure that our airports are still functioning, while this president, this ghoul, is walking away mid-sentence like an absolute weirdo. I mean, to make
All of
matters
this
worse,
for
here is a clip
Bibi
of Trump getting
Netanyahu,
distracted by
Israel.
gold, a gold tractor in a speech to farmers.
Israel first.
Tractor suppliers, that's a beautiful tractor. That's a gold tractor. Somebody had me in mind. What's that all about? That's a hell of a tractor. I'm looking at this. That's a good one too, red, white, and blue. But somebody really hit me with that one. That's
He like
beautiful.
gold.
Lord have mercy. I just want to be able to go to the grocery store and have my groceries look how they did when Biden was leaving office. Nobody's going to claim that Joe Biden's economy was perfect. I think that would be silly to claim. But when he was leaving, we were, by all accounts, steady-handed. The economy was rapidly recovering. Inflation was down, unemployment was down, jobs were coming back, and prices were beginning to, become steady-handed. Donald Trump tore that up for his terror fantasy regime. Prices already were rising, healthcare prices were rising, and now this war has really done it. I'm going to leave it there. If you appreciate...
I cannot get this blue up out of here. Hold on, before I forget. How long? An hour and 30 minutes and my likes still are not where they need to be. All right, I'm going to shut it down. I don't feel like going through constantly asking y'all to hit the like button. I just really don't. And it's 200, and it was 235 people in here just a minute ago when I was looking. Mm-hmm. This was funny. What did he say? I don't remember.
And then Wig wants to bring back segregation. We already don't be where the white people are. I don't know what you're trying to segregate. And then I don't want to be the one to say it, but if a black man had 34 felonies, he wouldn't have been able to sniff the White House grass. And then France said, bitch, give us back the Statue of Liberty. And I am flabbergasted because what in the hell have we? Well, you know what? Come get her. Come goddamn get her. And then Social Security payments are set to go up in April. And I know you make America great again, bastards are going to try to give that credit to Wig, but he didn't do it. No. We thank you so much, Representative Andrea Salinas and Joe Biden, for passing the Bipartisan Social Security Fairness Act. And then you haven't heard about a plane crashing in a long time, and that's because I shut the airlines down. You're welcome. And then Wig Invader Zim supporters keep saying, oh, the ones who didn't vote for Wig shouldn't get the $5,000. And I want y'all to keep waiting on it. And then Wig's approval rating is slipping like my transmission, but I'm going to fix that when I get home. And his supporters are still calling us stupid. Yeah, and he can't read. So who's really dumb?
Now
and then Wig wants to bring back segregation. We already don't be where the white people are.
Hey, give us back the Statue of Liberty. He said, come get her. Come get her. Come get our ass. Now, what is this about? Hold on, let's go.
Have you ever seen a cherry tree that
Hit
can be
the like
planted
button,
now and
people.
harvested in April? Introducing the latest agricultural breakthrough developed.
I gotta go to the grocery
Divine
store.
intervention for Donald Trump. Oh,
What?
I'm sorry, not that divine. In our breaking story today, divine intervention for Donald Trump. Oh, I'm sorry, not.
Oh, wait, divine intervention. Hold on. What was that? What was that?
In our breaking story today, divine intervention.
What? Okay, that's the first wife in Donald. Lord, but what about who? What in the world is going on up in here? What type of party is this? There's a party going on right here. A celebration.
For Donald Trump. Oh, I'm sorry, not that divine. Rather, a prominent pastor just shook CPAC yesterday with an assertion. Well, you got to see it to believe it. Welcome to Occupied Democrats. Please hit that subscribe button if you want to hear the shocking and illegal plea offered up at CPAC by evangelical wingnut Franklin Graham, the son of Nixon's spiritual advisor,
the late Billy Graham.
I'm the man of the hour. I'm the man with the power. You sleep in this tower.
Whoops, wrong Billy Graham. My bad.
Well, I'm up here tonight not to say go to hell, but rather go to heaven.
The line between professional politics and professional wrestling is blurring all the time.
The one thing that I want for you to know is that I love you.
Okay, in our featured story today,
Lord,
while
are these
I've
his
had little use
friends?
for his father, Franklin Graham has sunk even lower into the depths of fanatical, magical thinking, given his
They didn't
recent
use the
remarks
Aquanet.
at CPAC, or, as I like to call it, Loser Palooza.
This is not a war. This is not an award. Oh my God, I absolutely support the President of the United States of America.
Now, I'm not the only one who thinks that the Grahams, son and father, have been full of BS for years.
With someone like, say, Billy Graham, I think one can see all the symptoms of a self-conscious fraud. I mean, someone who doesn't believe any of this at all, but is a fairly
All of his friends, all his mega friends, they fraud.
The world we're in. Our breaking story today, it comes from the late Billy
Satanic
Graham's
frauds.
evangelical nutjob son, Franklin. He's pushing a most ungodly narrative. Ungodly narrative? Who does that remind you of?
Get on your feet, boy.
Oh, they mad about him. Oh, they are mad about that Erica Kirskit. Twerk. I wanted him to twerk it out.
Raising in Iran.
We're praying for all the soldiers and troops.
That's great that you're praying, but
How about
all the kids that died when the USA hit the towers?
It broke my heart.
In what ways have you grown closer to Jesus?
I serve a righteous God. And that is why we say our prayers. We are all his children.
Oh, wow.
But when I say children, I mean like the holy, blessed Trinity, which is why I hold the Bible.
They are mad about this
Okay,
skit.
here goes the not homophobic Franklin
Thank
Graham.
you,
Can
Kristen.
they get married or no?
Listen, I cannot accept gay marriage. I'm not homophobic. People.
Okay, if you say so. Well, more of the same nonsense. Franklin Graham is a guy people send their hard-earned money to do God's work, and apparently to do Donald Trump's work as well. It's our featured story of the day. On the other side of this, I put together a little montage of hypocrisy I hope you enjoy.
Love Donald Trump. Is he perfect?
Hell to the no.
But I love that guy. I love him. I love you. And we'll only have one chance at this. We'll never get another president like Donald Trump. Never. And that's why it's important that we do everything that we can to try to get him reelected.
Hey, the wheels are
Kill,
off the wagon
steal, and
and
destroy.
we are headed over the cliff. So please like, share, and do take care if you're marching at No Kings, and we hope you are. In the meantime, Jagger and I have put together, in the spirit of today's breaking story, here's our montage of hypocrisy.
Lord, 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 Lord.
They think he God, y'all.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for coming this week. The collection boxes are at the end of the congregational hall. Hope you see you next Sunday afternoon, 3:30 next week. Cheerio.
I have nothing to do with it. Woo!
So this is my
God popped
first
out and said,
day
I have nothing to do with it.
starting free printable Tai Chi walking program. And this is
Operation Epic
You talking
Fury
about
may well
Obama
go
8
down in
years?
history
What
as
8
Operation
years?
Epic failure. And our breaking story today, Iran has been so successful in bombing U.S. military bases across the Middle East that soldiers are having to work remotely. Welcome to Occupy Democrats.
In a hotel
Hit
room.
that subscribe button if watching your tax dollars fund an illegal war makes you want to hit the streets this weekend?
Our demonstration of moral strength is in opposition to the tyranny that threatens our very existence as a country. And this kind
We
of
will not
gathering
yield
can unite us in a
to the
moral
devil's
movement
shield.
to save America. And we will not stand down, not now, not ever.
I got a question for you. Are we free? Did it scare us off? Are we going to let them know? That's right, because what we are doing here today is as American as apple pie. We are standing up for our rights. We are standing up for our neighbors.
Okay, if you want a good reason to march on Saturday, well, here goes. In our breaking story today, a story reported by the New York Times. Well,
13 bases.
What Trump and his stooges are bleeding out every day is actually far from the truth. Imagine that. First, let's check their bleats, and then on the other side, the truth about the devastating losses to our military bases in the Middle East that makes them uninhabitable. Well, here are those.
They don't want to talk about that. He's talking about Sharpies, though.
Has a modern military. Iran had a modern military, a modern navy, a modern air force, modern air defenses, leadership, massive bunker. Never has a modern military been so rapidly and historically obliterated, defeated from day one with overwhelming firepower. The air campaign that we've conducted.
So they're saying that we blew up theirs. Oh my God, they killed me. I can't. I can't with they reverse. I just cannot. Every truth they turn it around and make it a lie. I cannot. I mean, if you're blowing them up and knocking them out, why are you steady sending troops? To steal oil or what? Hold on, let me get ready to see how I am going to end this. Trump hosts farmers at the White House. Or why you done gave 40 billion to Argentina, Bibi Netanyahu cousin, Javier Milanovsky. And yeah, Argentina. So why you still faking the funk in our farmers' face? You know, ooh, baby, you better be glad. Ooh, Lord. I almost said something ugly. Lord, I thank you. Oh, my God, I almost said something ugly. Hold on. Where are they talking about? Oh, boy got caught. They done hacked his stuff. And all his be-naives coming out. Huh? Where is it at? War backfires in face. Yep, it backfired in his face. Where is it where I had panic files? Okay, until I can get it back close. Let me get to Bibi Netanyahu. His truth is marching on. Oh, here's where it leaked about
TV report.
Patty Tail.
Indicates a huge lack of security. All right, we have some breaking news that should concern every single American. Our own FBI director, Kash Patel, just got his personal email hacked, which indicates a huge lack of security for every U.S. citizen, every official within the U.S. government, and we already have Iranian hacker groups taking credit for this specific attack. Now, we don't know if they actually did it or if it was some random hackers, but this shows that this administration is getting smacked around from all sides right now. Enemies, bad faith actors, hacker groups, they are taking advantage of the idiocy of coming from this administration, and Kash Patel is Exhibit A. Kash Patel's personal email got hacked and leaked, and we now have a plethora of photos of him smoking cigars, going on vacations. Yeah. Many of these photos appear to be from before his tenure as FBI director. Like this photo right here is clearly very, very old, but
I'm getting messages.
Bad faith actors, hacker groups, they are taking advantage of the idiocy coming from this administration, and Kash Patel is Exhibit A. Kash Patel's personal email got hacked and leaked, and we now have a plethora of photos of him smoking cigars, going on vacations. Many of these photos appear to be from before his tenure as FBI director. Like this photo right here is clearly very, very old, but an Iranian hacker group has already taken credit for this, and this is about the fourth scandal that our FBI director has gotten in since the beginning of the year.
Yep.
It was only about a month ago that Kash Patel was caught partying with the U.S. men's hockey team, and then we learned this was as the United States was gearing up for a war with Iran. So imagine that. The Trump administration is planning and plotting a war with a Middle Eastern country, and our own FBI director is out there partying rather than taking care of, I don't know, counterterrorism or counterintelligence. Watch this. Why is Kash Patel there? Why is our FBI director there, jumping, partying, and swirling beers down his throat? It makes zero sense. This is only a little bit after we learned that Kash Patel was firing people in the FBI because they were trying to bring attention to his use of the agency jets. Kash Patel and his celebrity girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, have been abusing taxpayer dollars in order to fly jets around the country, go to different shows and concerts, and then use Secret Service members as essentially Uber or Lyft drivers to get his girlfriend and her friends back to their Airbnb, using and abusing taxpayer dollars for his own gain. Kash Patel is clearly the worst FBI director we've had in American history, and this is just the beginning. So as Disclosed TV reports, FBI Director Kash Patel's personal email address has been hacked, according to the DOJ. This comes only a day after Iran-linked hacking groups claim it breached the FBI. They said, quote, "Soon you will realize that the FBI's security was nothing more than a joke." As Stacy points out, he's literally the worst FBI director of all time. How do you, in the course of 1 year, in the course of one quarter, just the first 3 months of the year, Kash Patel has been caught in a massive jet scandal. He's been using and abusing taxpayer dollars in order to fly himself around. That is just the definition of corruption. He's gotten caught drinking and partying. That is, again, just the definition of corruption. And now he's gotten hacked by a foreign group. We'll look at some of these photos in just 1 minute, but I want to point out his girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, posted this really weird thread 3 days ago. It went super viral. It got 7.2 million views. And none of it quite makes sense. It honestly reads as a really weird manic thread, but maybe this has something to do with the hacking that took place. Let me read this off to you. And by the way, make sure you subscribe to the Adam Mockler feed below. We have been working every single...
Hey, y'all, I'm going to need for y'all to hit the like button. Double tap the face of your screen. Hit the 3 dots at the top corner right. It's 220 people in here. Get the likes up, please.
Day to hit 2 million subscribers, and now we're very, very close. So genuinely, thank you to each and every single one of you. We are the fastest growing Gen Z run independent media company. No backing, nothing. We are just growing every single day because of you all. So thank you. So Kash Patel's girlfriend, this is the FBI director's girlfriend, posting this 3 days ago. She said, thread, a foreign-linked influence network has been running coordinated operations against the Trump administration for 22 months. I know it's real because they ran one against me. I was targeted in something I knew was far from organic. This level of media is isolating, unwanted, and unwarranted. There was nobody to help, nobody to jump in and say, this is a false op and help me. Well, I don't believe in problems without solutions. She says this is about creating chaos in the Republican Party. I honestly don't quite know what she's talking about here. A foreign-linked influence network has been coordinating operations. Shouldn't this be something you take to maybe, I don't know, the FBI? Why don't you talk to Kash Patel about this and not just write random threads? She says, in July of 2025, I was falsely labeled a Mossad spy in a coordinated campaign to isolate me. Across the operation, July's event, and others dating back to 2024, the data shows 3.1 million retweet engagements. Okay, so it seems like she was getting shit-talked online, and she wasn't happy with it. She then wrote a 13-piece thread going through a bunch of information and trying to prove that she is not a Mossad spy. This is some weird, wild stuff coming directly from Kash Patel's girlfriend that you see in this clip.
And if I was actually abusing it, I would go see every one of her shows. I think I get to like 15%.
Just to clarify, how often has he traveled to see you since January 20th?
Oh gosh. I think like Nashville. I've been in Nashville like.
Yeah, I've been to her house a couple times with her family for the holidays and, you know, birthdays. I've seen her perform this year, I think 3 times.
Yeah.
And if I was
So this is them trying to respond to and debunk the critiques that they're abusing government resources to go on trips, and it kind of seems like they're confirming it. His response is that he's not going to 100% of her shows, but 15%?
actually abusing it, I would go see every one of her shows. I think I get to like 15%.
Okay, so you're 15% abusing it. That's also not cool, and that equals 100% abuse. If you are abusing our taxpayer dollars by only seeing 15% of her shows, that is just straight up abuse. Let's scroll through some of these Kash Patel photos that leaked. In the first one, you have a visibly younger Kash Patel smoking what looks to be a cigar or maybe a blunt at it looks like a hotel, or he's staying somewhere on a vacation. In this one, you have him sniffing, again, a cigar, looking like he's on vacation, taking touristy pics that he likely emailed to himself. We have him in a New York zip-up, looking a bit younger. We have him at Havana Club, smoking something again. It's photos that anybody could email themselves. It's not even about the photos themselves. It's not that Kash Patel got exposed for some crazy photos. It's the fact that our own FBI director doesn't even have the fundamental security precautions to prevent his own accounts from being hacked. Even I have multiple levels of verification to get into anything because I have an online persona. I'm a public figure. It is very, very hard to get into anything that I own, but it's not for Kash Patel. It's not for our own FBI director. It indicates a level of carelessness, a level of ineptitude that you see dripping down through every other facet of the Trump administration and of the FBI in particular. I didn't even mention the reports that Kash Patel threw a temper tantrum in the wake of Charlie Kirk's shooting, which was horrific. It was horrific to see Charlie Kirk get publicly assassinated, even though I obviously disagree with him on everything. I thought that was very horrific, but Kash Patel apparently threw a tantrum behind the scenes because he didn't have a proper fitting jacket, or he had lost his jacket, right? So then he has to take some jacket from a female FBI employee. You can look this up, this all happened. And then he starts melting down because he doesn't have the proper patches. Then we learn from former senior FBI officials that you're not even supposed to wear this jacket when you are an official at his level. You have your own style, your own uniform that you wear to show that you are, that you are in a certain position. Kash Patel is easily the worst FBI director of all time, and that is very, very clear. If you agree with that analysis, then make sure you drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed to the Adam Ocker feed below. We will continue to push back against these lies every
I need y'all to get the lights up. I'm going to the last one. Again, I don't want to have to keep saying the same thing to y'all every time here lately. To get the lights up, and I'm an hour and 52 minutes in. Yeah, no. Let's get to the Bibi Netanyahu. Boy, when I saw this picture at first, I thought he had braids. I was like, what? I know that ain't his prison.
Alex Gibney, thank you very much for doing this. So, for all the years that Benjamin Netanyahu has been in the American media, I think there's very little sense in the U.S. about his domestic troubles in Israel. We keep hearing he's been charged, and the President of the United States keeps saying he needs to be pardoned. You made this documentary that explains what is at the core of this controversy. Like, what are the charges? What is he accused of doing? Did he do it? So I'm going to stand back and just let you, if you would, outline what
made this documentary that explains what is at the core of this controversy. Like, what are the charges? What is he accused of doing? Did he do it? So I'm going to stand back and just let you, if you would, outline what
This
Benjamin
they
Netanyahu
talking
has been
about
accused
Bibi
of doing.
Netanyahu, Milanowski.
Well, roughly speaking, you'd say it was bribery, or you'd say it was corruption. I mean, and I can detail the charges. This is a film that I produced, and it was directed by Alexis Bloom. And back in 2023, I got a strange message on Signal from somebody who said that they had all of the police interrogation videos from the Benjamin Netanyahu investigation. And they had been investigating Netanyahu since 2016 for charges of corruption. That is to say, trading on his position as prime minister to get money in all sorts of favors, jewelry for his wife, very expensive Cuban cigars, hundreds of millions of dollars in forgiveness of certain loans in order to be able to get favorable coverage on a news website called Walla. So it was a pretty interesting case, and it went from the very small, meaning very expensive Cuban cigars from a rather famous movie producer named Arnon Milchan, to something very big, which is effectively a $250 million financial arrangement in exchange for coverage, good coverage for Netanyahu. So it was a pretty big deal.
What did the so you got the tapes? Where? Let me just ask, to the extent you can say, where did they come from?
This might be the only delivery service that actually feels chef made, because it is. This is Cook Unity, and if you're someone that enjoys delicious food,
I can't say where they came from. I can't say anything about the source, but what I can say is we got over 1,000 hours of tapes, and these were interviews with Netanyahu himself by the police, also Netanyahu's wife, Sarah, his son, Yair, also with a number of key people close to Netanyahu. For example, Nir Hefetz, his former head of communications, Sheldon Adelson, who we know in this country as a billionaire, now deceased, his wife Miriam Adelson, Arnon Milchan, a famous Israeli businessman, arms dealer, who also became a very famous motion picture producer. So it was a kind of an extraordinary array of evidence. And while some of this evidence had been published in Israel in written form, nobody had seen the tapes. And the tapes are very revealing, particularly for Netanyahu, because Netanyahu tries to cultivate this image of the grand vizier, the great statesman of Israel. Here you see a rather petty, corrupt man desperately lying to save his skin. And his wife, who is a deeply entitled woman,
Now hold on.
corruption got greater and greater
Oh
and greater until it
Lord,
became
y'all
a
haven't
moral
been able
corruption
to hear.
in Stasi. So it was an
I am so
illuminating
sorry.
look at the actual character behind the facade, sort of like that moment in The Wizard of Oz where,
I am
Toto
so
pulls
sorry.
back the curtain. And for Netanyahu, because Netanyahu tries to cultivate this image of a very famous motion picture producer. So it was a kind of an extraordinary array of evidence. And while some of this evidence had been published in Israel in written form, nobody had seen the tapes, and the tapes are very revealing, particularly for Netanyahu, because Netanyahu tries to cultivate this image of the grand vizier, the great statesman of Israel. Here you see a rather petty, corrupt man desperately lying to save his skin, and his wife, who's a deeply entitled woman, trying to claim that, so what if we got stuff? I mean, we deserve it because we're doing so much for the nation and for the world. And his son Yair, who is also extremely entitled, screaming at the police, yelling, you're like the Stasi. So it was an illuminating look at the actual character behind the facade, sort of like that moment in The Wizard of Oz where, Toto pulls back the curtain and the wizard says, please pay no attention. But it was really revealing.
If you can, and I think people watching this will watch the film, but I'm interested in your take, having watched 1,000 hours of this. What is it? Can you go more deeply into what do you think it reveals about the prime minister and his character?
Well, I think it reveals, a kind of deep-seated corruption, a willingness to do almost anything to save his skin. I think that he became possessed after the election in 2015 of a sense of enormous arrogance, that he was now the man. Because he came back from what seemed to be a defeat to an enormous victory, and now he had this sense of entitlement. Interestingly, then he began to, cash in on that entitlement, and he was caught. But what happened then was that rather, as he heard the sound of the possibility of the jail door slamming shut on him, he began to start to do things that really took Israel in a very dark direction. The first thing he tried to do was to essentially...
This isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to help you see how much the world has changed and how quickly things can break.
Oh, what did I just do? Hold on. I'm here. I just hit something. Oh my goodness.
Fix the Department of Justice. He tried to engage in a series of this is before October 7th. He tried to engage in a series of reforms of the judicial system, which would weaken the power of the judiciary in Israel. Most likely because that would undermine the case against him. That's the most direct likely outcome. But the other thing was that by this time he had formed a government with an extremely right-wing coalition with a guy named Ben-Gvir, who is head of national security, and a guy named Smotrich, who's is a head of the of finance. They are extremely right-wing, extremely anti-Palestinian, and their designs were to expand illegal settlements in the West Bank. And in some cases, well, it was already a dire situation for Palestinians on the West Bank. Nevertheless, there would be judicial orders which would sometimes get in the way of that. That was another aspect of this. Well, when Netanyahu tried to fix the judiciary, the country rose up, and it was in a huge uproar over these changes, which were fundamentally undermining Israel's democracy. Not too long after, of course, there was the terrible attack by Hamas on October 7th, which shocked Israel. What people began to learn was that for years, Netanyahu, again, I think, as part of the way he sees the world and as part of a kind of more generalized sense of corruption, had been trying to modulate the relationship with Hamas, and indeed had been allowing millions and millions of dollars to flow to Hamas from Qatar, sometimes in bags of cash traveling through Israel. And the reason he was doing that was to undermine the Palestinian Authority on the West Bank in order to be able to allow for his right-wing coalition to get more and more territory via settlements. So all sorts of strange, corrupt deals were happening. But then I think that post 10/7, which was a terrible moment, I don't want to minimize it in any way. It was a horrific attack, and we show some of that attack in the film. But he then launched an attack on Gaza, which was so beyond any sense of proportionality. Now we have at least over 75,000 people dead. Of course, now we have an Iran war and a Lebanon war and so forth and so on. But one of the goals, I'm convinced, and not me, but all of the witnesses who are, very reputable members of the security establishment in Israel in the film, indicate that part of the enduring ferocity, savagery of the war was due to becoming a wartime president who could then not be prosecuted or successfully prosecuted for the crimes he had committed. The trial, not only the investigation, but now there's been a trial. The trial is still ongoing. This is 10 years after the investigation started. So long as he's the commander-in-chief and he's waging war, how dare you attack the president? So in a way, this kind of venal, personal corruption that starts with cigars and pink champagne, for which they had code names, and then evolves into corrupt deals relating to the media, becomes a mechanism by which slowly but surely the corruption got greater and greater and greater until it became a moral corruption in which the world is now engulfed.
We've got a new partner. It's a company called Cowboy Colostrum. It's a brand that is serious about actual health, and the product is designed to work with your now believe about that attack.
I should point out that
But there were a bunch of people, including people I knew, who said Hamas was clearly terrible. I agree with that. I want to be clear. But there were a bunch of people, including people I knew, who said, wait a second, this couldn't have happened if the government of Israel had really tried to prevent it. Okay, so there's something very strange about the ability of Hamas fighters on motorbikes and gliders and on foot coming across the most heavily guarded border in the world, and the delay in the response of the IDF to this. Like, what is this? And it's almost forbidden to say that, as you know, in the United States. But tell me what people you spoke to in Israel now believe about that attack.
Turns out the government tracks a lot of data, and it's scattered all over the place. Data on prices, jobs.
I should point out that when you say I spoke to, I mean, the person who directed the film was Alexis Bloom. I got the footage. Alexis was one
of course. I'm asking you to speak for the film.
Sure. No problem. In any event, I think there were a lot of people who felt that a proper investigation into what Netanyahu knew about the possible impending attack by Hamas should be commenced. However, that got rolled under the carpet because of the fact that he's now in a war with Hamas. I mean, Hamas doesn't really have an air force, so you can't properly call it a war. But I think there was a lot of talk about how much and what advance warning Netanyahu may have had about the October 7th attacks. I've never seen, prima facie evidence of that fact, but there's certainly a lot of talk about it in Israel.
Okay, so it's not just crazy people on the internet who think it's possible or likely that Benjamin Netanyahu knew this was coming, had some sense it was coming, didn't do his best to prevent the damage within Israel because he was in this politically tough spot, and the ensuing war would take the attention off him and allow him a pass on the charges. Is that a fair summation?
I personally think it may be a bit too cynical to think that he literally engendered an attack in order to be able to counterattack. But I do think that he had deluded himself, in part because he thought of the world as a series of deals. He had deluded himself into the idea that he had manipulated Hamas and all the money that was flowing to Hamas, wasn't going to go to weapons and preparing an attack. I mean, he kept saying, what was the phrase? It's in the film, that he could control the height of the flames by the introduction of money. He also quotes The Godfather when he's talking to the police. He says, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, as if he was the Don and sort of able to manipulate events, but he clearly was not able to.
That seems like a smart interpretation to me. I mean, of course, I don't know, but that sounds plausible, entirely plausible. So then October 7th happens. I think most Israelis are genuinely shocked that it happened, and they're horrified. And a lot of the world is genuinely shocked and horrified, including me. But then this war begins in Gaza, or this leveling of Gaza, this mass murder in Gaza, and then it expands to a lot of the region in the Levant and now into Iran. Is it too cynical to think that one of the motives there from the prime minister is to just keep moving forward because if he stops, he gets arrested?
Well, it may be a little bit too cynical. I mean, Bibi Netanyahu's wanted to attack Iran for years. In fact, they did another film about. I mean, Bibi Netanyahu's wanted to attack Iran for.
If he stops, he gets arrested.
Well, it may be a little bit too cynical. I mean, Bibi Netanyahu's wanted to attack Iran
because if he stops, he gets arrested.
Well, it may be a little bit too cynical. I mean, Bibi Netanyahu's wanted to attack Iran for years. In fact, they did another film about that subject called 0 Days. But I do think that once the momentum of war began, and I would say also that to some extent the momentum of war began to have a certain popular impact among the populace in Israel too, that now there was an opportunity to go after more enemies. So, and it had the byproduct, of course, as long as there's war, as long as there's permanent war, Netanyahu will never be held to account. So, once again, I think
stop right there. So that's the same mindset of Trump. If there's a war, a continuous war, he'll never stand account for his war crimes. That seems to be what they both got going on in their heads to avoid
impact among the populace in Israel too. That now there was an opportunity to go after more enemies. So and it had the byproduct, of course, as long as there's war, as long as there's permanent war, Netanyahu will never be held to account. So once again, I think it may be a bit too cynical to say he attacked Iran so he wouldn't go to jail. But I think it had been a long-standing desire.
Same thing sound familiar,
for Netanyahu to want to really go after Iran, and now both once he'd started the war in Gaza, but also I think with the Trump administration coming to power in 2024, suddenly he had an opportunity.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. So how is he regarded, the prime minister in Israel? It's hard to know if you're not there. What's your view?
I agree. I think it's fair to say that there is a robust group of people who are vehemently anti-Netanyahu and believe he's destroying Israel and destroying democracy in Israel, and indeed making the country a pariah worldwide. I would agree with that point of view. However, I would also say that war has a peculiar effect on people and can engender a sense of nationalism, which I believe is rising. Not only a sense of nationalism, but that nationalism undergirded by the undertow of victimhood. So Netanyahu is very much using that, and I think it would be a mistake to think that he's unpopular. We'll find out very soon, when elections happen. But I think that as long as you're waging war, people tend to rally around the commander-in-chief, which I think is both a cynical ploy by Netanyahu and also a long-standing goal of his to be able to wage war across the Levant and expand Israel's power and influence.
Did you get a sense of his religious views. I think of Netanyahu as, well, honestly, is pretty American and Western and secular.
Very much
but
so.
in his, I mean, the first statement he gave after the war in Iran began, he began with today's Torah portion, and he's been saying things like that a lot. Do you have an opinion on what he thinks, what his spiritual views are?
It's hard for me to say. I mean, I think that to some extent, I see him more as a politician. Now, I don't have access to what his real views are, but when you hear politicians quoting scripture, in effect, it tends to be for the reason that they're trying to undergird their policies with the force of God. That's it's an old script, and I think Netanyahu knows very well that it's an effective one. That would be my gut.
Script.
I really don't know or have any insight into scripture, in effect. It tends to be for the reason here politicians quoting scripture, in effect. It tends to be for the reason that they're trying to undergird their policies with the force of God. It's an old script, and I think Netanyahu knows very well that it's an effective one. That would be my gut. I really don't know or have any insight into what he believes when he's alone in a room, what his relationship is with God.
Yeah, well, we can't know, but it does seem like the country is changing fast. That's my perception as a visitor.
It's not a good. It's not a good thing, and we can also see that this hard right wing faction has wreaked havoc on the West Bank, and settlements are expanding apace in a really reprehensible way. There's lots of it's sort of out of the public eye, but that I think was one of the goals from the beginning. With this reckoning with Hamas and all of this stuff, but also, because Netanyahu, in order to stay in power, another corrupt deal, he makes a deal with the hard right and then goes very hard right. It's not like he was ever a peacenik, but now he goes very, very, very hard right. And at the great expense of the lives and livelihoods of many Palestinians.
Yeah. I don't know if it's right or not. I'm on the right, and I hate this. I hate violence. And there were reports this morning in the Israeli press, of mass rapes of Palestinians by settlers in the West Bank. So, I think that's just
the degree of violence by settlers on Palestinians in the West Bank is rapacious. I mean, it goes on day after day after day after day.
Wow. Y'all hit the like button. Do I need to pause for the likes to go up? Support the platform. Super chat, super sticker, send some gems. Do something.
Ranchers built America, feeding our country for over 250 years through droughts and wars and recessions. We use Good Rancher. Tucker is the code for $25 off. GoodRanchers.com, American meat delivered. So since you're the producer of this film, do you mind if I ask you about your experience? So you come into possession of 1,000 hours of tape, which is not public. You're not saying, understandably, exactly how you got it, but it's real. I mean, probably a lot of people don't want you to make that into a documentary and air it. So what was your experience of that?
That's fair to say. And indeed, when we tried to produce the film in secret, I had some able helpers. I mean, not only was Alexis Bloom, an extraordinary talented woman, directing it, but in Israel, we were aided by a guy named Raviv Drucker, who is a noted journalist in Israel, and helped us to contextualize some of this stuff. But we had a sense that we had to keep it secret while we were making it. And then we sort of launched an event at the Toronto Film Festival in 2024. It was a work in progress because we felt at that moment this kind of thing needed to be seen. Now, Netanyahu himself went to court in Israel to try to stop the premiere of the film at Toronto. He was utterly unsuccessful. But I should note also that the American media played a kind of unseemly role, in the sense that we went to NBC first, and we were going to do a rather big piece in advance of the premiere in Toronto, and then we were told at the last minute that, NBC has decided that we're not going to do the story because it would probably upset Netanyahu, and that would limit our access to the prime minister.
They said that?
Yes, they said that to me. That's correct.
What?
Not what I would regard as a deeply courageous move by a journalistic organization.
Yeah, I mean, I think journalistic is probably too strong. But wow, I've worked at that company. I'm just surprised that they were as blunt as they were to you. What did you say?
I was just shocked. I mean, because I was ready to do an interview. I believe it was Andrea Mitchell. I was shocked. And, part of the reckoning was...
What about Russia?
Was both craven and
they're
bad
talking about Bibi Netanyahu.
but also sort of corrupt in the sense
Israel.
that they suggested that they might have gone with it if they themselves had discovered the police interrogation videos. But they weren't going to risk their capital with Netanyahu for something that they themselves didn't discover. The idea of the public good or the public reckoning didn't seem to be part of the equation. It was a very disappointing moment.
Probably not that surprising. I mean, in general, the coverage of what happens there is, non-existent or not consistent with reality in the United States. But did you pause at all before embarking on this? Once you got the tapes, did you think maybe it's not a good idea long-term for me to get involved in something like this?
No. I felt it was really important because those tapes, once I was able to verify them and to understand them better, I felt they shed a really important light on a vital figure in world politics, Netanyahu.
Yes.
And so it seemed to me that that's my job. And when I find out important information about public figures that shed light on wars and how we reckon with the world, that it's my job to get that story out. So I actually didn't pause, but it took a while to figure out, because I'm not a network, I'm an independent filmmaker, and it took a while to figure out how to raise the money, how to, and also to do it in secret so that nobody would subpoena the tapes or, prevent me from getting to the end. So, we Alexis and I had to proceed, for some time in secret. But, it was, I felt it was really important material and really important to get it out.
Good for you. How hard was it to raise the money?
It was hard, but not, as it turns out, impossible. So, and there were a number of people who also, once they were able to see a little bit of what we had, came forward and helped. So yeah, we were able to do it. I mean, it was it was mining a different source. It wasn't the traditional way where you go to your bureau chief and you say, please give me the resources of the corporation and let's go get this story.
No, it definitely isn't. So we've tried from the beginning just to advertise businesses that have like-minded values, businesses that make things or provide services that we actually use, that seem like decent people, that don't hate us or you. And that's one of the reasons that we have aligned with Charity Mobile. So when you make the switch, Charity Mobile sends 5% of your monthly plan price to the pro-life, pro-family charity of your choice. That's millions of dollars and counting sent to pro-family philanthropies. So that sounds great, but Charity Mobile must be really expensive to be doing that. Well, no, they're not. They've literally never...
I don't know. I think that...
Do you expect any consequences going forward? I mean, presumably you hope to make other films. Will this make it harder?
I don't know. I I think that we live in a moment.
This video right here never really existed. It got over 8 million views. It's one of the first videos
Where people all over the world, including in this country, are making it difficult for independent voices to be heard. So yeah, I reckon with that. But I feel like even though, and I'm glad you know TCN is showing Bibi files on its network, and it has had you know pretty good international distribution. The distribution here has been somewhat handicapped, but
can you tell us about that? What I mean, it seems like even if I disagreed with your views, which I don't know that I do. I don't think I do, but I would just stop at you have relevant information that's real about one of the key players in global politics. So like that alone justifies this, in my opinion. And so the idea that you would have distribution problems in the United States is a little scary, and I'd love to know more about what those problems are.
I think one of the problems is that the market in general is controversy averse. You know, you have a number of streamers who don't want to upset their viewers. You have news organizations, which in this case, as I've documented, you know, also didn't want to be on the wrong side of an issue that might upset people. I mean, it seems to me that the job, you know, because I do think that 4 years ago, roughly speaking, you know, if I had gone out into the marketplace with the Bibi files, there would have been a bidding war. But now it's kind of just the opposite. It's like we don't want to do anything that might upset people because then they won't buy sneakers or they won't buy iPads. You know, so that's part of it. And I think part of it is that controversy has become problematic, and also powerful political figures are exerting influence on broadcasting outlets to toe the line. And sometimes if you're not, you know, you don't have a regular show, you don't get a hearing. So it's a problem. It's a really big problem. I think you know, while I'm critical of the mainstream press, particularly in this instance, you know, I believe strongly in the idea of a free press.
Yes.
And I'm deeply upset about the way not only Netanyahu did it in Israel, but the way the Trump administration is trying to suppress a free press in this country. So it's a dark time for this.
How long have you been doing this kind of thing?
Well, that's a good question. You know, I guess I've been doing it. I've been an independent, a freelance since, since the 1980s. So somehow, some way, I've been, you know, managing to scrape by. I've never really worked for an organization except for the small company that is Jigsaw Productions, which is my company. Yep. So,
have you ever seen an environment this difficult for someone who wants to present inherently newsworthy material like the tapes in this documentary?
Not really. There was another period in the late 90s in this country. I remember trying to do a film it was critical of Henry Kissinger. And I had an easy. The BBC was actually heroic in that instance, but I could find no finders here, and it was only by going to. I think we played at the Film Forum for something like 3 months that finally it allowed, because it was then entertainment, it allowed a broadcaster to show it. It was difficult then, but it's much more fraught now. I think it's very, very, very hard to get independent voices heard. It's really unprecedented in my experience, this moment.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's certainly my feeling, but I don't have the 40-year perspective that you do. So, but I admire your dedication to a free press, your bravery in doing this, and your willingness to explain it. Well, you probably heard a lot about the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi, on this show and elsewhere. He's the guy who's always at the White House working to suck the United States into some war of conquest on behalf of his country. But what you may not know is that the charges against Netanyahu are real. Corruption charges. They tell you a lot about him. What exactly do you know about this man who's apparently in charge of the United States? Well, Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi, on this show and elsewhere. He's the guy who's always at the White House working to suck the United States into some war of conquest on behalf of his country. But what you may not know is that the charges against Netanyahu are real. Corruption charges. They tell you a lot about him. What exactly do you know about this man who's apparently in charge of the United States? Well, we are now streaming the Bibi Files. It's a documentary that pulls back the curtain on Benjamin Netanyahu. This film traces the rise of the longest-serving prime minister in the history of Israel and the corruption cases surrounding him. Hear from former staff and Israeli insiders describing. They tell you a lot about him.
He don't want us to know
this. What
this.
exactly do you know about this man who's apparently in charge of the United States? Well, we are now streaming the Bibi Files. It's a documentary that pulls back the curtain on Benjamin Netanyahu. This film traces the rise of the longest-serving prime minister in the history of Israel and the corruption cases surrounding him. Hear from former staff and Israeli insiders describing what Benjamin Netanyahu is really like and see leaked interrogation footage from his corruption investigations. Video that you were not meant to see and that they definitely don't want you to see. The Bibi Files. It offers a rare look.
Oh, wow.
Inside Israel's power structure.
And they really want us to think that man at that coffee shop is this man right here. That man that's out there grabbing folk hands and shaking and asking them how was the weather outside and all of that there. They really want us to think that that's the same man who looked 30 years younger. Look at this love affair right here. Daddy say I. Not mommy, may I. Daddy say I. That's why I took Martin Luther King statue out. That's why. What you mean, why I took it out? Where you take it out of, Money Tree Hollins? Oh, that's why he took it out. Okay. He did more than that. He took the holiday, the park holiday.
And the corruption cases surrounding him. Hear from former
Voted
staff and
no
Israeli insiders
for
describing
reparation.
what Benjamin Netanyahu is really like and see leaked interrogation footage from his corruption investigations. Video that you were not meant to see and that they definitely don't want you to see. The Bibi Files. It offers a rare look inside Israel's power structure and the man whose decisions have once again drawn our country into another war, a big war. You can stream it now only at tuckercarlson.com.
Okay, yeah, what time is it? 6 something? I don't know. Let me check and see what else is going on, because this just may be it for me tonight. Let me see what I missed. Hold on. Hold on. T-sippers. All you gotta do is hold on. What is this? Major effort to block Trump election through search. It's a madhouse. This is the craziest something I done seen in all my life.
There's a world of opportunity out there.
Shout out to Max. I see she live. Trump White House just said the quiet part out loud. I saw that there was chaos going on in the White House. FBI confirmed investigation was controlled.
Hello, everybody. David Schuster here. Conservative Fox and Friends host Brian Kill
let me tell you about something that's completely transformed my meal prep. The Full Star Vegetable Chopper.
Hello, everybody. David Schuster here. Conservative Fox and Friends host Brian Kilmeade is freaking out.
Numbers show the Hispanic vote went heavily for the Democrat. That is a warning sign for next year.
Kilmeade is reacting to this. Democrats flip Miami mayor's office, winning control for the first time in nearly 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
Eileen Higgins got a landslide victory over Emilio Gonzalez, who was endorsed by Donald Trump. Higgins focused heavily on inflation and affordability.
The Democrat, first female mayor to ever win in Miami. Usually it's a Republican. This is the first time in 30 years that a Democrat has won.
Crushed, as in a Democratic win by 19 points.
Just focused on affordability and making local government work better and faster.
The implications nationwide are huge.
If the administration does not win the Hispanic vote, the Texas redistricting will not work because it's all based on the president continuing to get 47 or 46% of the Hispanic vote. If they are misreading the president's aggressive policies on illegal immigration, they love them at the border. They don't necessarily love the aggressive tactics going to Home Depot and or landscape trucks dragging people off. The perception is that they're being grabbed because they're Hispanics.
Hispanic voters in Miami said they were also
put off
by the
heard
Trump
earlier
economy.
also that they had drones flying over
special elections for the last several months.
Military base in the United
States.
States.
Victories and are exceeding expectations even in races they lose in heavily Republican districts. Donald Trump keeps insisting that any economic problems are because of his predecessor, Joe Biden. But another Fox host, liberal Jessica Tarlov, noted the Trump defense is not working.
The argument that the guy who's been out for a year, that it's all his fault when you've implemented a totally new economic agenda and that it's a failure in basically every corner of it, is not really resonating with people. When Joe Biden's inflation number was over 9%, the entire world's inflation number was up. Donald Trump doesn't have the same issues that Joe Biden did. He doesn't have a supply chain problem. He doesn't have a global health pandemic that was killing millions of people all over the world. He's just setting our economy on fire, and not in the good way, in like the dumpster fire way.
Trump is also ignoring reality. In a recent interview with Politico, there was this.
But I do want to talk about the economy, sir, here at home, and I wonder what grade you would give.
A plus.
A plus.
A plus 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 plus. The A plus grade, obviously that's ridiculous. But there are some key indicators that Donald Trump and his administration knows that this is going really badly. First, Susie Wiles having to go out there and say he's going to get back on the campaign trail. That'll really animate the right. Well, guess what? It'll animate the left as well. We aren't getting the jobs numbers anymore, the GDP numbers, or the inflation numbers. And we know that Donald Trump, if the numbers even remotely good, or he can lie about it, he tells you what it is. Layoffs on track for Great Recession levels. ABC says 70% are spending more on their groceries, 60% more on utilities. Reuters, manufacturing's been contracting for 9 months straight. And this farmer bailout, $12 billion of his tariff pot, which he didn't need to put the tariffs in the first place. And the farmers are speaking out about this. This is Donald Trump's problem. He's the one who caused this. The head of the National Black Farmers Association, agriculture in this country has been in complete turbulence and turmoil since the president got elected. This is a man-made crisis.
On Fox News, some of the conservatives are still spewing their Donald Trump talking points.
Record stock market. Right now, the stubborn factor is rates. So once he gets these rates to come down, it unlocks the housing market, and that unlocks the American dream.
But staying on Fox News, other conservatives are also beginning to crack. And they have become increasingly aggressive in questioning the Trump economic team. Laura Ingraham just noted the administration's own Bureau of Labor Statistics is reporting the highest number of job layoffs in 3 years.
The BLS numbers, the layoffs reached 1.9 million. That's the highest since 2023. So what is that? Is that AI? Is that migrants leaving the country? Is that, automation?
Oh, okay. I didn't even see the name. I just read the message, child. I'm sorry. Hi, Randall. Thank you for the clock in.
Is that going to be able to really, blunt that effect?
Right. Well, we still have to get like the government data that we lost because of the shutdown. And one of the things we're seeing is that payroll surveys, where they call up firms and say, "Hey, do you have how many people do you have working with you?" That they're showing much lower growth than household surveys, where we ask people, "Do you have a job?"
Translation: don't believe the data, says Hassett. Well, that is kind of like Donald Trump's own claims and fibs. They are delusional.
After just 10 months, our border is secure, our spirit is restored, inflation
Oh my God, he
is
killed me
stopped,
when he talked
wages
like
are
that.
up, prices are down, our nation is strong, America is respected again, and the United States is back.
Hey, it's Ashley with 4 Patriots. We're in a bit of trouble. To put it plainly, we need to clear out some space in our warehouse fast. We recently...
Just a fact check on that last bit. The inflation rate is higher than it was a year ago and has been rising since President Trump's tariffs took effect.
Hey, sweet babe. Hey,
In
precious.
April. Meanwhile, beef prices are at an all-time high.
Leave that beef
Tariffs
alone.
are to blame for increased costs on common grocery items like coffee and orange juice. Also, continuing problems, Willie, as more and more people appear to be having trouble finding jobs, definitely having trouble buying homes, and affordability is a big issue.
Indeed, and a few news organizations interviewed Trump supporters after the rally.
Listen to those exit interviews of people at the rally. They say, I like Donald Trump. I like a lot of what he stands for. But he is wrong that things are going well in this country in terms of our pocketbooks.
Yeah, he can lie about a lot of stuff, and his base will take it. It's very hard for him to lie about how expensive everything is because people feel it. And, you know, I don't know. This speech, he's not well. He's not well. I mean, it is very, if you just took his speech in isolation and it wasn't Donald Trump and it was out there and he gave it to a group of people at a Rotary Club or something, people in the audience would be going, what? It's very bizarre to me that he cannot have any discipline when he does this.
During Trump's speech, the president verbally meandered into riffs about migrants, Democrats, and stolen elections. On the economy, which was supposed to be the focus of the speech, Trump did acknowledge that some Americans may need to sacrifice as his policy transitions and tariffs take hold. Trump said that some Americans may need to limit the number of dolls and pencils they buy their children.
You can give up certain products. You can give up pencils.
Pencils?
That's under the China policy. You know, every child can get 37 pencils. They only need 1 or 2. You know, they don't need that many. But you always need steel.
MGR.
You don't need $37 for your daughter. 2 or 3 is nice, but you don't need $37.
Former Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill says Trump's talk about financial sacrifice is even more insulting when you consider Trump's own approach.
He of gilded Oval Offices and ballrooms and gold dripping from everywhere, his excesses on a personal level, how dare him tell people how many dolls they can buy their children or how many pencils they can have. This guy is a walking hypocrite when it comes to conspicuous
They had a fight on the House
and
floor.
the Trump hypocrisy, along with the sputtering economy, keep coming back to bite Republicans. Voters keep ditching Donald Trump Republican candidates at every level. The midterm elections are now less than a year away, and even Donald Trump's fiercest supporters on Fox News are getting anxious and melting down.
If it is found that survivors were actually killed while clinging on to that boat, should Secretary Hegseth, Admiral Bradley, or others be punished?
I think you're going to find that this is war, that these people were killing our people by the millions, actually.
There you go, using that war word again.
I think last year we lost close to 300,000 people were killed.
Hey, Dorothy.
That's not mentioning all the families. Have you seen what happens with the families of not only the people?
Well, it depends on which clone. They got more than one.
Or their daughter off of this poison that they've been fed.
Regarding the people trying to get their son or daughter off of this poison, the fact is the Trump administration has cut funding for substance abuse prevention programs. Secondly, the president said last year we lost 300,000 people to federal and other drug-related deaths.
Ain't he involved with one of them
CDC
Trumps?
says the number last year
I'm listening to some of my ear, y'all. Tiger
That is still a tragedy, but it is 1/6 of Trump's fabricated number. Trump says millions have been killed the past few years. The CDC says that over the past 10 years, the total death toll is 800,000. Donald Trump also said this is war, except that Trump has not sought a congressional declaration for war. And the U.S. Constitution is clear. Only Congress has the authority to declare and approve a war.
Oh, he don't want to talk about Tiger?
Because we know every route, we know every house, we know where they manufacture this crap, we know where they put it all together. And I think you're going to see it very soon on land also. Yeah, please.
So to be clear, you support the decision to kill survivors after the
No, I support the decision to knock out the boats, and whoever's piloting those boats, most of them are gone, but whoever are piloting those boats, they're guilty of trying to kill people in our country. Yeah, please.
Those boat pilots are guilty of trying to kill people in our country. If
Donald
Trump is the judge, the jury, and the executioner, America is a tyrannical fascist state, and dear leader can do or say whatever he wants. But in America, at least for the moment, we still have this thing called the Constitution, and it provides a strict set of rules and rights in our justice system. If somebody is suspected of trying to kill people, that person still gets to defend themselves in a court of law. Even people who are in boats far away from the United States are entitled to due process. Of course, all of that is lost on the MAGA fascists at the conservative cable news channels. Kudos, though, to liberal Jessica Tarla for trying to explain things to conservative knucklehead on Fox, Jesse Waters.
All right, so Jessica, it takes 2 strikes to knock the boat down to the bottom of the ocean. How is that a war crime?
Well, it's a war crime, and we didn't play any Republicans, but there were plenty of them that have been talking about, like John Yoo, who was the architect of the Bush 9/11 response, was talking about this as well. That if there are people who are shipwrecked, which is what these 2 survivors were.
In the toilet, they're going to get it. He better not drink nothing.
Well, they're not survivors.
Okay.
They're victims.
You know,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's how the DOD manual says that you have to do it, that you have to take them, you should send a helicopter to get them out of there, and then you try them. Or international law also says that as well. You could play Roger Wicker talking about it, Senator Tom Tillis, Mike Turner. These are all Republicans saying it. So the narrative that this is about the left getting all hot and bothered about another hoax is absolutely beautiful.
Yes, the conservative narrative that this is all a left-wing hoax is crazy. And as Jessica noted, there are some Republicans who have pointed out that what the Trump administration did in this case violates Justice Department and U.S. military rules, tramples on U.S. law, and violates the laws of war. But of course, this is not technically a war because the Trump administration has not gotten congressional approval for a war. And that means these boat strikes are law enforcement actions.
What about the war? What about the war? What about they need $200 billion for the war? I mean, I cannot stand playing dumb and acting like they're deploying our military men.
Of course, it depends on the size of the nuclear weapon. But if it's a small nuclear weapon, it will not finish the war. Of course, it depends on the size of the nuclear weapon. But if it's a small nuclear weapon, it will not finish the war. It will merely make the war unfinishable. Mm-hmm. The war will continue.
They don't want it to finish because he don't want to have to face the music of his crimes.
Russia and China will be forced to reevaluate their entire approach to the American empire in the wake of such an atrocity which would kill hundreds of thousands of people in 1 second. And then
Money Tree, why do you keep putting messages and deleting them? This is not about both sides. This is about what's going on right now, because both sides didn't have us in war. So we have to grow up and stop trying to make the problem that is going on right now of both sides to avoid saying that it's His problem. His fault. All by himself. It ain't about, well, what Biden didn't do. What Obama did. Fuck that. Grow up. We all gotta grow up and stop trying to put everybody in the pot of gumbo. No. Everybody did not accept this war from Bibi Netanyahu. Stop lying. Stop straddling the fence. Be solid. This is crazy. For anybody to try to incorporate a both sides thing. Obama never, ever blamed Trump or nobody else. Well, he was after him. Bush and none of that. He took the bull by the horns and he did the best that he could. He didn't sit there the whole 8 years blaming somebody else. This fool here done started a war. What does that have to do with Biden? Well, one thing they did not do, Money Tree, is start a war. So miss me with that. They did not start a war. For Bibi Netanyahu.